Hello and welcome to Trial TV Live. I am the Squeegee of Justice. Thank you so much for joining us today as we are presenting another episode of The Ego Takes the Stand. This would be episode 23, Adams County Deputies versus Afroman, better known as the Lemon Poundcake lawsuit. So we've got a little bit, we've got a lot to unpack here with Afroman. So we will get settled in and let's get started. All right, welcome in everybody, welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you coming in today. Who do we have with us in chat today? Well, we have a new Ego Takes the Stand. Christine, hello, good vibes. Camilla, horse welfare. Aussie Gardner, number 5, hitting the like button. Elaine, great to see you. Hey, William, thank you for joining us. Jeff Poole, a welcome bit of light relief. So for those that don't know, our Ego Takes the Stand is somebody, a defendant, will get on the stand in their own defense. Sometimes it works out well for them, sometimes it doesn't. Hey, Brett, how are you? Court Watcher Denisha, thank you for joining us. Always great to see you. Kimbers, welcome in. Let's see, we have Debbie. We did have a good lunch. Hope you had a good lunch break as well. Grizzly Grandma Courtroom Attic. Hello, good afternoon to you. Challenger, Linda, welcome in. Hey, Kaylee, how are you? Nan, good to see you. Dragonflies. Boy, I got to scratch my throat. I can't get rid of. Excuse me. Bama Green Eyes, good to see you. Man, got something in my throat, frog in my throat I just cannot get rid of. How aggravating. Sorry, guys. I just cannot get rid of this. All right. Hey, lazy boys. Super Kelly G. Who has it worked out well for? All right. Let me read you a backstory here. All right. So on August 21st of 2022, deputies with the Adams County Sheriff's Office in Northwest Ohio executed a search warrant on the Winchester home of rapper Joseph Edgar Foreman, better known as Afroman, while investigating allegations involving narcotics possession and kidnapping. Kidnapping, of all things. Kidnapping. Afroman was not home at the time, but the search was captured by his home security cameras and recordings made by his wife. When the search concluded, deputies found no illegal substances, no evidence supporting the kidnapping allegations, and no criminal charges were ever filed against Afroman. But the story didn't end there. Afroman later used footage from the search in multiple music videos and social media posts promoting his album Lemon Poundcake. And if you notice, if you are a member, you have access to the Lemon Poundcake icon. So If you are a member, you have access to the lemon pound cake icon. All right, we continue on. So, the videos poked fun at the raid and featured deputies searching his home. Sorry, I'm just making sure that everything's okay. All right. So let's see. According to the lawsuit, 7 Adams County deputies claimed Afroman used their names, images, and likenesses without their permission to promote his music, merchandise, and personal brand. The deputies allege the videos and merchandise subjected them to ridicule, harassment, embarrassment, and even threats. They are seeking monetary damages and a court order prohibiting Afroman from continuing to use their images. The lawsuit includes claims for unauthorized use of a person's likeness, right of publicity, invasion of privacy through misappropriation, false light publicity, public disclosures of private facts, injunctive relief to stop future use of the footage. The plaintiffs are also seeking compensatory damages, punitive damages, profits earned from merchandise featuring their images, attorney's fees, and an order requiring the destruction of products displaying their likeness. Now, Afroman's response: before the deputies filed their lawsuit, Afroman sued the Adams County Sheriff's Office, alleging the search damaged his property and violated his constitutional rights. Now remember, they also stole money. He alleges that they stole money from him as well. Following the raid, he released videos showing damage to his home, including his front door, which deputies forced open while executing the warrant, and recording the song, "Will You Help Me Repair My Door?" which directly referenced the incident. That lawsuit was ultimately dismissed and no damages were awarded. Now, the case has already experienced procedural complications. This was before it went to trial. In February 2026, the court struck pleadings filed on behalf of Media Access, Inc. after determining the individual who submitted them was not licensed to practice law in Ohio, rendering the filings legally invalid. So, central legal question. At its core, this case asks an important First Amendment question. When police officers are recorded while performing their official duties during the execution of a search warrant, can that footage later be used in satire, commentary, music videos, and merchandise? Valid question, right? Or does using those images to promote a commercial brand does that cross the line into an unlawful exploitation of a person's likeness? They are public figures, after all. It's like politicians, officers, kind of falls under the same thing. The outcome could help define where First Amendment protections intersect with privacy rights and the right of publicity. Now, on March 13th, 2026, after deliberating for approximately 6 hours and 15 minutes, the jury returned their verdict. I'm not going to tell you what that verdict is because we watched it. We watched it live. If you guys were with us, you know what happened. So if you haven't watched it, I'm not going to spoil it for you. We'll watch it together. So I'm going to start off with a little interview before we actually get to the opening statements. But I just want to show you a little clip here of Afroman talking to a local news reporter, and we'll get a little taste of who Afroman is, who Joseph is, and we'll take it from there.
Tell me about your connection to Adams County, how you got out here.
I met a girl who was a fan of mine, and I fell in love with her, and I was living in Mississippi. I was getting into it with some dude. I'm a big city boy. I'm from LA, and I was in this little town, and dudes from that little town was playing me real close. We was, about to fight. These days in a fight, you don't know where it's gonna go. You get in a fight, he might kill you, you might kill him, he might get hurt, might hurt him. So, I'm past that stage. I'm rapping, trying to do my professional thing. So I met her, and her brother had some land her brother lives up here, and he has a whole lot of land up here. And he sold me 5 acres of his land for like $5,000 an acre. I almost pulled that out of my pocket and smacked him with it, like, give it here, you know. And yeah, that's how I got here.
That was 2005.
I'm gonna say yeah.
What's kept you here ever since?
Space and peace, affordability, if that's a word. Space and peace. You know, it's real cheap. I can live like a king. I got lots of land, and I like to party, but I like to recuperate from the party. So this is a great place for me to regroup, regather, and recharge.
I feel at peace being here. You're hearing birds outside.
Yeah. I'm from LA. That tripped me out. I'm like, what are those? I see the cows walking slow across the ground. Yeah. Nice. Therapeutic. Good for my mental health.
Not so peaceful day. Back in August. The raid. Walk me through. I know you weren't here, but sort of how you found out about it and where you were, what went on from your side of things.
Yeah, I was in Chicago, and my neighbors called me and told me that the police were all over my property. And then, you know, I just went to my phone and just started looking at my home cameras, and I could just see them, like, you know.
How does that, I mean, what was your reaction to hearing that and then just seeing it with your own eyes and the footage that you got from these cameras around your home?
I understand that you can be suspected of something. I had a cop tell me one time, he said, "Sir, you fit the description of a man we're looking for. We just need to make sure you're not him." He checked me out. He realized I wasn't him. He said, "I'm sorry to bother you." I realized strangers have to do their jobs and whatever. I guess what I didn't like was the unapologeticness, if that's a word. Like, after they didn't find nothing, after they didn't find no kidnap victims, they didn't want to help me put my door back up. They didn't want to help me fix my gate. They ripped up my security cameras after they've been in my house like 3-4 hours. You know, they say, well, you know, suspect may be in the house watching officers, plotting to kill the officers. Well, they was in my house. They was in my house for about like an hour before they even realized they was being filmed. Then, you know, after the house was cleared and they know they didn't have any kidnap victims, they just stayed around trying to figure out how to rip up my camera system. And surveillance is part of law enforcement. Law enforcement relies on surveillance to figure out who did something wrong. You know, they should let the cameras keep going. But they ripped it all up. And, you know, after they disconnected my cameras, they could have stole whatever. After they took whatever, they reported having, I believe it was like $4,600. $400 came up missing from what they said they had. So the crime scene switches from my house to the police station. They started investigating themselves, and they say it was simply a miscount. Now, when you count money, you miscount. It's usually you're off $3, you're off $2, you're off. I mean, if you was off 15, I'd be wondering what you got in general math class. Like, gee, how do you miscount $400? why wasn't it $97, $56, $37? You miscounted $400 even. They stole my money, and I don't know why there would be kidnapping victims in my CDs. I got like some priceless CDs missing. I got, pictures missing. And if they would have simply left the cameras on, we would all know who did what. But they cut off my cameras and stole my money. They look like criminals camouflaged as law enforcement. What kidnapping victim is in my suit pocket? Every single last one of them. Country people say they got this thing about putting money in a fruit jar. Instead of kidnapping victims, I think they was in my house looking for the fruit jar.
The accusations they alleged against you were pretty intense. Kidnapping, drug trafficking. I mean, to read words like that about yourself, what goes through your mind?
I'm a rapper. I sing about I got high, I'm Afroman, I got 420 pounds of weed, I gotta talk crazy or the people ain't gonna buy my record, you know what I'm saying? I expect like some out of touch cops to assume I got millions of pounds of weed, but the kidnapping thing, to say that, and when you say that, people get away from you. If I accuse somebody of child molestation, when children go close to that guy, people start grabbing their kids' hands. They don't know. And even though you're innocent until proven guilty, you're still getting treated like you're guilty. So they cost me money by making that false accusation. No apology, vandalized and destroyed my home, ripped up my video camera, and then stole my money. These are criminals with immunity. And I think the immunity, puts them in a position to be better criminals. You know what I'm saying? Something needs to happen to where cops need to obey the law they enforce.
What else did they do to damage your call?
Ripped up my baseboards. Messed up my gate. They came right here, and I got 2 doors. So instead of kicking down just one and being in the house, they kicked down 2 doors. And when they kick down the door, they mess up the casing that the door flips on, and this and that. Once they got in here, my house was clean and it ain't that much stuff in here, so they didn't really have too much reason to rip nothing up. But they kicked down my door. My biggest complaint is my doors, my baseboards, disconnecting my video cameras and stealing my money. And then not apologizing. If I was a kidnapper, then fine. If I did have $1 million, if I did have 1 million pounds of weed, then fine. Okay, I don't have 1 million pounds of weed. Okay, I'm not a kidnapper. Okay, you want to help me put my doors back up? You want to stop stealing my money? You want to stop going through my suit pockets? You want to, stop disconnecting my camera, so nobody won't see the criminal acts you're committing, And then if they're doing this to me, how many other people are they doing that to?
You decided to make some music about it. Make a song, use some of the surveillance video. Walk me through the thought process and what sort of got you there.
I just thought about, that night I came home. And I'm a rapper, I'm not a carpenter, so I don't know how to put my door back up. So I just had to step over my door and shattered glass and everything and go upstairs and sleep while the insects just flew in the house, and I was upset. And you get mad, you don't know what to do, if I go down to the police station and hoop and holler, now I'm disturbing the peace. They're just going to throw me in jail, you know what I'm saying, might Epstein me, you know what I'm saying, I'm not going to go grab a gun and go to their house and do them like they did me, and I got mad and I just, I basically wanted to raise money to fix the damages they did, because I'm a black man. I may or may not win in court and all of that stuff. And the bottom line is, while I'm talking about court and suing you and this and that, insects are flying in my house. So I needed a quick way to pay for their damages, and I didn't want it to come out of my pocket per se. It was going to come out of my pocket, but I needed to come out of my pocket a different type of way. Just because they decided to kick down my door and mess up everything, I didn't want that to cost me any money. I think that should cost them money. They did. When I do damage, I gotta pay. They do damage and you gotta pay for what they do. And then they kind of smart aleck about that. So, I'm trying to figure out a way to fix everything. So I said, I'm gonna write a song. I said, I think I can. I'm gonna milk it as much as possible. A quiet rapper is a broke rapper, right? So the more raps I can rap, the more money I can make. So I was just like, I started rapping. I wrote down everything that annoyed me. I got a song called "Why You Disconnecting My Why You Disconnecting My Video Camera." So I wrote about that, and then I wrote, "Will you help me repair my door?" That's like my little baby. That's because I got High's little brother. You know what I'm saying? That went viral. I'm back in the game. I wrote, "I'm gonna have a good time, even though times are bad." And I wrote everything I could come up with. And then I put out the album, Lemon Poundcake. And then I said, I'm gonna sell this and try to raise money for the damages. And, if I didn't get nothing from a lawsuit, maybe maybe I could turn a bad thing into a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe I can make $50,000 off of this. Maybe I can make $100,000. Maybe I can make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 off of this. Then, it becomes a plus. I turn a bad situation into a good one. They brought me material.
What inspired you to use the security footage?
Rappers have to hire good dudes to play bad cops. But I didn't have to hire nobody. They were right there on my home civilian. You know what I'm saying? All I had to do was splice me in singing and go back to him, looking through my CDs and checking suit pockets for kidnap victims. You know what I'm saying? And it was beautiful, and it's something I can hold over the other rappers. Like, you got fake actors in your video. No, I got real sheriffs, in my video, really violating my civil rights, really stealing my money, really disconnecting my camera. I got the lady in the act cutting off my camera. You can see her down there by my DVR, and then you can see the screen just go blank. You know what I'm saying? So I thought they saved me a lot of money by being the bad cops you would have to hire for a movie or a rap video. They volunteered their services, and this is my home, my property. I didn't commit any crimes. They broke into my house and put themselves on my home surveillance footage. And in my life, I sing about what I go through. I was going to clean my room, but then I got hot. And, I tell my story about that. Well, I'm like, will you help me repair my gate? And then I'm not just making this up. I show him destroying my gate. I said, will you help me repair my door? I ain't just making it up. You watch him blast down the door. And then, I sung Lemon Poundcake, this, that, and the other. So done right, it was a blessing in disguise through a rapper's lens. You know what I'm saying? If I played the cards I was dealt.
Tell me how fans have reacted to not only the songs, but the music videos.
It's funny, am I the only person that's a victim of, corruption in law enforcement? I'm gonna say no. Am I the only person getting raided and falsely accused of crimes? I'm gonna say no. People out there are reacting to what they don't have a big enough platform to bring attention to. And they're like, yes, that's what happened to me. The cops took my money too. They call it asset forfeiture. It's just better terminology for robbery, force, or fear. It's both of those things. You forced me to give me your money and I was scared to take it back. You robbed me. No, it's not robbery, it's asset forfeiture. That's not a cockroach, that's a water bug. That type stuff. So, fans, some kind of way, not all of them are victims, but they know somebody that is. This is something that's going on out here in society, and they loved it, and the biggest compliment I get is taking a bad situation and making it a good one. And they like, that's all I hear. Man, I love how you turned it around. I love how you turned it around. I love how you took all that bad stuff. And, man, the song was funny, but man, I'm sorry you went through that. At the same time, that was horrible. You know what I'm saying? I thought that'd be more positive than, throwing a trash can at the police door and, hooping and hollering in the middle of the street. You know what I'm saying? I thought, I'ma just laugh, an honest question can be crazy. Instead of throwing a trash can at the sheriff's door, I showed him looking through my suit pockets. I'm like, any kidnapping victims inside my suit pockets? And there they are, looking inside suit pockets, and any kidnapping victims inside my CDs? And there they are, looking at my CDs. You know what I'm saying? I guess they like Madonna, Phil Collins, Ice Cube. And, I don't know what they was looking for. He was probably trying to, restore some of his collection. This, that, and the other. But the fans loved it. They loved it. I'm lightweight back on top. They just did a parody of me on Saturday Night Live. They wasn't putting me on Saturday Night Live before the Adams County Sheriff raided my house. They did that after they raided. So after they raided, they inspired the album. The album got the attention, and the attention is getting me everywhere.
What was your reaction when the lawsuit was filed by some of those deputies against?
From the first 10 seconds, I was offended. I was appalled. I was like, what? Then I started laughing. These big, bad, tough dudes came in here ready to kill me in front of my children I was watching with their assault rifles. These guys with their rifles are crying about my comedy songs. I felt like I don't know if you say that. I felt bad because my only response to men coming through my house with guns was a rap song and some t-shirts. Yeah, that's my response to you kicking down my door, stealing my money, disconnecting my cameras. What you gonna do about it? Oh, I'm gonna write a song. I'm over here feeling less than a man because I wrote a song. And then these big bad dudes is feeling humiliated. What? Like me? Mental stress? Like me? And they're suing me? I won. My rap songs are My rap songs are more intimidating than their rifles. My rap songs got big, bad, corrupt cops in the corner. Tell him to stop singing about me. These are the people protecting the community. People that can't take words after they do the wrong. After they steal $400, they can't take a joke. After they disconnect cameras, they can't take a comment on my social media, in my circle, in my world. I'm not in their sheriff world with everybody has their little flag with the blue stripe. I'm not in their circle saying this and saying that. No, they came into my house. I'm talking to my family members. I'm talking to my fans while they're getting mad about me saying the truth in my circle. They want to sue me because I'm showing my friends and family what happened. And then they're mad because I'm writing songs about my life. Then I started laughing. You come into my house with guns and you leave with lawsuits.
And you're planning to countersue, correct?
Yes. I plan to countersue. I think they stole my money. No, I know they stole my money, and they disconnected my cameras. I believe that's a crime. I believe that's tampering with evidence. You know what I'm saying? They're law enforcement. They shouldn't be disconnecting anyone's cameras 4 or 5 hours after they done kicked down the door. There's no need to disconnect it now. There's no kidnapping victims in the house. There's no drugs in the house. Goodbye. But no kidnapping victims, no drug. You hang around and just vandalize my place. Going through suit pockets. Who's in my suit pocket?
You've lived here since 2005. You mentioned at the start of when we sat down that this is a place of peace. Being in this home, in this community now, if you were to need to call 911, would you feel like you could do so? Do you feel peaceful here the way you did before this happened?
The police department was not designed for black people. The police department is here to serve and protect white people. And I'm sorry, but that's the truth. When I call them, somebody broke in my house, they took 3 days to come out, take a report, and didn't give me a copy of the report because that's what I needed to give the insurance company to get some of the stuff back that was taken from my home. And when I call consistently, checking up on the investigation, he's like, we'll let you know if anything's happening, and if you call up here again, it will get addressed. Because he's not here for me, you know what I mean? I had a girlfriend kick my door down and come in here. They didn't arrest her because it was no room in jail. However, when I commit a crime, there's always some room. Yeah, there's plenty of room in the back of that squad car. There's a cell waiting for me with a bed. But when this lady kicked the door in, there was no rooms in the jails. You know what I'm saying? And when I need them, it's a delay and an excuse. When someone calls them on me, here they are. Assault rifles, no knock warrants, blah, blah, blah. So I'm a black person in America. The federal government didn't protect the slaves after slavery, so the Ku Klux Klan just killed them and hung them all over the place. And the police, sometimes they do good stuff. Every now and then, I got a flat tire somewhere. He'll hold a flashlight for me, like, wow. But then he'll search me before he do all that, blah, 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 So, like I said, I ain't mad about it. Things used to be worse. Things are better. If you put a gun to my head and ask me, could there be any improvements, I would say, yeah. But, I as a black man in America, I calling the police, whatever. I go through the motions just to be as good as I can. But that's the reason why I had to get cameras, because the police wouldn't investigate burglaries in Adams County. And it's not just me. You can ask the whole county. You know what I'm saying? People are stealing left and right. You know what I'm saying? Taking packages off of porches and breaking into people's houses. You know what I'm saying? I'm from LA. You know what I'm saying? I stayed in South Central, Compton, Watts. My house has been burglarized more in Adams County than any ghetto I've ever lived in. So, but I still like certain stuff I gotta do. I gotta have cameras, I gotta, stash stuff I care about and blah, blah, blah. But no, me personally, I probably wouldn't call the police. You know what I'm saying? I believe they're a needed scarecrow in society. Bad guys don't need to know that there's no police or there's no consequence for their bad actions. They give you a look. You know what I'm saying? But do they investigate crime? Sometimes on 48 hours they solve murders. You know what I'm saying? But, there's, a little boy got killed in Seaman. They never solved that murder. People's houses are getting broken in left and right. You know what I'm saying? They don't solve no murders. You know what I'm saying? And I know we need police, but I don't know. Sometimes I think they need to come off of traffic and just investigate burglars and murders. You know what I'm saying? But no, I wouldn't. Personally, I wouldn't call them.
What comes next for you? I know you got tour starting in June, and here you're running for president?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I'm running for president. I want to get cannabis legal in all 50 states. And I want to make it federally legal, so no other fellow American has to go through what I've been through. I don't want nobody else's kids watching, you know what I'm saying, some guys run all through their house and vandalize and steal money and disconnect cameras because they heard you had some cannabis or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's great medicine. It's natural. It's getting a lot of people off of pills and Oxycontin. So I would like to get it legal in all 50 states. And then I would like to see some serious police reform. I would like for an officer not to be able to get paid if he turns off his camera. And then I want civilians to monitor the cops. I don't want the cops editing their own videos, blurring out what they don't want you to see, showing only what they want. No, they are for the people, by the people. So I would like the people to monitor their actions and make sure they're not out here committing crimes against the people that they're supposed to be protecting. I mean, I don't want those cops to die. I don't want them to go to hell and burn forever. I do want to talk a lot of crap about them and make a whole bunch of money. And I believe that's quite humane under the circumstances.
All right. I was playing our feed if you didn't notice. All right. So that's a little backstory there. Now, this happened in 2022. And of course, Ohio passed cannabis law in 2023. So at this point, he can partake to his heart's content, and it's totally legal. All right. So next up, we're going to get to the trial. Let's get to the trial now. Let me cue it up.
He ramped them up. Freedom of speech. I can say what I want. worse and worse. You'll see what they are before the trial's over. Now, I'm going to ask you to come back with me to the summer of 2022. Adams County, here in West Union, here in this courthouse, the sheriff's office downstairs. There's a group of deputy sheriffs, several of them. A lot of them were raised here in Adams County, lived almost all their lives here. A lot of them have had their whole law enforcement careers here in Adams County. Some of them left Adams County for a while but came back home here to be with the people that they know and know them. Some of them could have gone to the city, to Cincinnati or Columbus or somewhere else and made more money, but they stayed here in Adams County to be law enforcement officers, deputy sheriffs. They have wives, spouses, husbands, children, go to Adams County schools. This is where their lives are. 7 of those deputy sheriffs are here today. There's Randy Walters there on the left, Mike Estep beside him, Lisa Phillips beside him, Sean Grooms beside him, Justin Cooley beside him, Detective Brian Newland beside him, and Sean Cooley, Justin's father, beside him. What brought them together was some information that Brian Newland came across in the summer of 2022. Some information that caused him to have to do something. So he typed up a search warrant and he took it to a local judge. The local judge looked at it, approved it, signed the search warrant, and Detective Newland started gathering deputy sheriffs to help execute this search warrant, and it was a search of defendant Foreman's property out on Russellville Road here in Adams County. Detective Newland will tell you that any search like this is potentially dangerous, so you like to have as many people as you can. The deputies had guns, of course. A couple of them had rifles, which is normal protocol in a situation like this. And there were about 10 of them altogether who were gathered to execute this search warrant in August of 2022. And these 7 were some of those deputies. The evidence is going to show that they approached. The evidence will show, first of all, none of these deputies had any idea when they woke up that morning that they were going to be executing a search warrant. None of them had any idea that by doing their duties that day, their lives would be turned upside down. That evening, they approached the premises, spread out the way they had it planned. They knocked on the door, no answer. Tried the doors were locked, doors were secured. They ended up gaining entry with a battering ram, had to knock the door down. Again, that's procedure that happens in executing warrants when that's the way you need to get in. Nobody was home. Nobody was home. Mr. Foreman wasn't home. He was away in Chicago doing a show. The deputies searched the house. They found a small amount of marijuana. They found a significant amount of cash. They seized the marijuana, they seized the cash, that's what they do. And that was pretty much it. No evidence of a major crime was found. And so what happened was, after a while, the local sheriff ordered that, decided there's not going to be any charges filed here, and so he ordered the cash to be returned. It was over $4,000 total cash found in some of Mr. Foreman's clothing and another place in his house. Shortly after the cash was returned to Mr. Foreman, he began claiming on the internet and every place he could that the sheriff's deputies had stolen $400 from his money, hadn't returned it. You're going to hear the evidence about that, and we're going to demonstrate to you that that's not true and that he knew it wasn't true. There was an independent investigation done by Claremont County, but that didn't keep him from continuing to declare that Brian Newland in particular and the rest of these deputies are thieves. Okay, that's just the beginning of it. Then he went beyond calling these deputies thieves. As I've indicated to you, he called Brian Newland a pedophile. Not called him, he posted it, published it all over the internet in various posts. He found a photo of Detective Newland from a Shop with a Cop event that Mr. Newland attended with little kids, disadvantaged kids in the community, shop with a cop, get them to know law enforcement. Mr. Foreman found a photo of Brian Newland holding one of these children that he worked with. And Mr. Foreman blocked out the face and put a smiley face on it and posted this picture of Brian Newland, and it says, "Brian Newland is a pedophile. Watch your kids around this man. He likes to fondle little boys' testicles." Posted it all over the internet, not once, not twice, many, many times, seen thousands of times by people. People in the community started making comments to Detective Newland. His daughter came home from school crying because some kids had called their dad a pedophile. He used to coach cross-country teams. Some of the kids on his cross-country team started calling him a thief and a pedophile. He'll testify, he'll tell you that his daughters used to have kids over all the time. They like to hang out at his house and do things. After all this started, that stopped happening. Like, kids didn't come over. Finally, Detective Newland felt like he couldn't continue to work in Adams County anymore. Adams County was his dream job. He started here as a deputy, worked his way up to detective. This is where he wanted to spend his career, but things soured out. He couldn't stand working here anymore. He resigned his job from the Adams County Sheriff's Department and went to Cincinnati and now works for the Norwood Police Department. He commutes, drives every day because he felt like he can't work here anymore. Now, Mr. Foreman, as I indicated a moment ago, saved his most severe attacks for Lisa Phillips. Lisa Phillips worked as a resource officer in the Adams County schools for 18 years. She used to greet the children, including Mr. Foreman's children, when they were dropped off at school in the morning. Said hello to them, made them feel welcome. Mr. Foreman posted that Lisa Phillips likes to have sex with other women. He used other words. She ate my ex-wife just like pizza. Pussy, 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 eating, blah, blah, blah. Over and over, thousands of times on the internet. People saw it, people laughed, people from out of state, but people here in Adams County would sometimes yell at her when they saw her. Hey, Lisa Lickumlow Phillips, that was his nickname for her. Over and over. This has been going on for like almost 3 years now, folks. And it's taken a heavy toll on her. Her child came home from school crying, saying, because the kids were saying, "Did your mom have a sex change?" because of what they saw that he had posted. We asked him to stop. He doubled down. Thank you, Judge. She's out on call doing her duty. Someone yells at her, "Hey, Lisa Ligamalopeith," calls her a thief. She's had to miss days of work because of the emotional upset. Her doctor has her on medication. Because of this, because of lies. Just Friday, on the eve of trial, he published the most egregious thing you can imagine. I don't know if any of you have seen it. I think you will in this trial. It's basically pornography about Lisa Phillips. Mr. Foreman also targeted Deputy Randy Walters for special treatment. In several videos seen by thousands of people, Mr. Foreman declares, "I used to fuck his wife. I used to fuck his wife doggy style." His daughter came home upset because the kids at school were saying, "Hey, is Afroman your father?" We asked him to stop. He didn't. He's still publishing. There's new videos today coming out. In your face, I'm going to do what I want. Justin Cooley was targeted by Mr. Foreman as a thief. Sean Cooley, Mike Eastep, and Sean Grooms all suffered by being called a thief. They're sheriffs. They go to people's houses to do things. "Hey, you're going to steal my money too?" Their reputations have been damaged. It's harder for them to do their jobs. You'll hear all the evidence. That's what this case is about in terms of the facts. At the end of the case, you'll have to decide if Mr. Foreman should be held responsible for what he's done. That's what the case is about. Should he be held responsible? I indicated during our jury selection process the kind of damages we're going to be asking for, the non-economic, the value damages. You'll hear all the evidence. You'll have to decide, how bad was this? I think you're going to decide it wasn't just a little minor, said something bad about you. It was about as bad as you can imagine for these deputies. Reputation, pain and suffering, humiliation, personal embarrassment, loss of reputation, all that stuff, you're going to have to put a value on it. And I will tell you this, as I said earlier, I'll try to help give some guidance. You can reject it or not, because it's your choice. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be asking you for a number for all these people that is in the 7 figures. That's how serious we take this. And there's also a punitive damages element that may go to you depending on what the judge decides. And that's going to be another decision you'll have to make based on how bad you think this is and what this conduct deserves that's been done to these people. At the end of the day, it's about what's legal, what's moral, what needs to be done to make up in some way for what's been done to these deputies that have spent their careers defending this community and living in this community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klinger. Mr. Osborne.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to reintroduce myself. My name is David Osborne, Jr. I represent Joseph Foreman. He does go by the stage name Afroman. And I want to thank you for your service today. This is not going to be an easy case. This is going to take a week of dedication of you to go through. Not an easy thing to ask, but something that we appreciate you are willing to do. This case is about the freedom of speech protections contained within the First Amendment of the United States and the Ohio Constitution. It is about an American citizen's right to make public comments about the actions of public officials, actions that took place in his own home, actions that took place within his home were part of his artistic, creative expressions. And Americans maintain a right to criticize, to mock, public officials. And that includes law enforcement officers. On August 21st of 2022, Detective Brian Newland drafted a search warrant. That search warrant was based upon an interview conducted with a confidential informant. That confidential informant gave Mr. Newland information. He put it in a search warrant, and then he went and he saw Judge Roy Gabbard, and Roy signed it. From there, they went to execute it that very same day. Officers from the Adams County Sheriff's Office, 7 of the 10, descended upon Mr. Foreman's residence with a hastily prepared search warrant. For a man who's famous for a song that said, "I got high," the amount of force used was excessive, to say the least. After all, based on the song, a bag of Doritos would have been enough to take him out. But they deemed it necessary to not only go to his residence with assault rifles, body armor, and even a riot shield to execute their search warrant. And all that led to a destructive search of Mr. Foreman's residence. Deputies searched Mr. Foreman's home, every one of his outbuildings, behind the couch, under the hood of a car. And you know what they found? A couple little joints, which, let's face it, because I got high, that was expected. And then they found cash. His cash, not theirs. His. They seized all that. It was cataloged, returned to the office by Brian Newland. Newland then does what's required by law. After you search, you have to return a thing to the court that says every single thing you seized, a return on your search warrant to tell the court what you took. In that, he puts a number for the amount of cash that was there. Now, Mr. Foreman, well, let me back up, because there's something I forgot during the search. For a search for marijuana, or whatever was in the search warrant, we'll introduce that later, they disconnected his security camera system. He has a security camera system in the house. He's had break-ins before. Most Americans, he has a security camera system. Yet in the middle of their search, they disconnect it. They say it's going to be because they wanted to take it for evidence. But you know where that evidence ended up? On the couch over there. Just disconnect it and leave it there. Now, what precipitated next is the primary focus of the lawsuit. Mr. Foreman did what he's done through his entire career. He took his life experiences and turned them into music, social commentary, and artistic expression. After all, one only need to look at the song, Because I Got High. The lyrics are there. I was going to clean my room because I got high. He was rapping about his life then, and his posts are talking about his life and his experiences. During the search of Mr. Foreman's home, deputies' actions during the search were captured in 2 places. One, the security system of Mr. Foreman. Joe's security system was active until they cut it. You also have body camera footage. Now, we don't have body camera footage for all 10. Not everybody was wearing body cam. But the officers that did, there is body cam footage. And he used this footage from both those locations to make his music videos. He posts them on social media like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and even TikTok. The plaintiffs decided they did not like what Joe had to say about him, or how they portrayed him, or how he used the footage of their behavior as their job as law enforcement officers, as public officials. Their response was to sue him in order to silence his freedom of speech, threaten his livelihood. After all, have you ever heard of a law enforcement officer suing a person for making a social commentary on him? Or have you ever heard of an officer suing anybody because someone said they didn't like what they had to say? Officers deal with it all the time. I dealt with it during my election. You don't sue people. You respect the freedom of this country and move on. Because, let's face it, if we don't have freedom of speech, what else is there? 250 years ago, the founders of this great country wanted to limit the government's involvement and what government officials had power over to say. And that's why we have the freedom of speech we have today. Before we get to the evidence, I want you to understand this case started with a number of claims. Of them, 2 were dismissed by the court.
Do not go there. Do not go there. You know and I know the jury doesn't need to know what's not there. I'm not hiding the ball. Claims filter out like they should. I gave you instructions, and you don't need to get distracted about what's not in front of you. Mr. Klingler talked about punitive damages, maybe, but you don't need to know that because we're not there. I'll tell you that if you need to know it later. There's a lot of things this case is not about. So he doesn't get to talk about what it's not about. It's only what it is about. Go ahead.
Forgive me. I have to readjust my opening slightly. It should be noted that public officials, such as these gentlemen and Miss Phillips over here, are held to a higher standard than an ordinary person. They're public officials. They are expected to be criticized and mocked. The evidence will indicate that Mr. Foreman created songs with titles like "Will You Repair My Door?" "Lemon Pound Cake." These songs went viral, yes. People connected with the message and understood what Joe was trying to say. The videos and songs resonated with the public because they addressed something that people care deeply about as Americans, and that is how law enforcement officers conduct themselves. Joe also made statements on social media about the search and the officers involved. Some of these statements were openly critical and expressed Joe's opinions about what happened. Statements about missing money. And he used some strong language, some exaggerated language. We call it hyperbolic language, to present his message and his opinion. But all these statements were a matter of public concern as well as statements about his personal opinions. The experience of law enforcement officers executing a destructive search warrant is well beyond question, as it is a matter of public concern. The plaintiffs are going to point to specific statements that Joe made. They're going to claim these statements are defamatory. They are going to attempt to remove them from their context. Statements aren't in a vacuum. There's context. If you get called a name, if my wife yells at me, there's probably context to it. That context is what we're going to show you. Because if you look at those statements in isolation and simply ignore the conduct that sparked them, you can't understand really what was going on. You'll be asked to forget much of that context of the statements. At least not the least of it is that the plaintiffs are public officials and the public has a right to criticize them. The evidence will show that Mr. Foreman's statements fall into 3 categories. The first, many of these statements are his opinions. Opinions are not assertions of fact. They are Joe's subjective views about his encounter with these public officials and the execution of their duties. Even if they're mean, even if the person who is the subject of them hates them, they are protected. Second, many of the statements are exaggerated, rhetorical exaggeration, as you might expect from a musician. After all, if you didn't have Because You Got High, if I said I just didn't want to clean my room, no one would have bought that song. You have to exaggerate something. You'll see he used colorful language, sarcasm, and satire. No reasonable person would have understood these statements to be literal assertions of fact. For example, Mr. Foreman created nicknames and made comparisons to cartoon characters. No reasonable person would understand those as a literal assertion of fact. That is a rhetorical satire flourish. That has always been part of our social and political commentary in this country. After all, Pick up the newspaper, you're going to see a political cartoon making fun of somebody. Watch Saturday Night Live. They make fun of people all the time. They even made fun of Joe. It just happens. It's part of our freedom of speech and also Mr. Foreman's artistic expression. The third is the extent that any of the statements assert facts. They relate to matters of public concern. Matters of public concern are exempted. These statements address how the search was conducted, what actions were taken, and how Mr. Foreman experienced this as a homeowner with these people executing their hasty search warrant. Indeed, the public's concern for such issues is reflected in the viral response that his content got. The plaintiffs bear the burden of proof in this matter, not Joe. They must carry the day. They must prove every element of their claim. Looking at the invasion of privacy due to false light, it's one of the claims that they're claiming. The plaintiffs must prove that Mr. Foreman portrayed them in a false light that would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. The evidence will show that he did not. He used real actual footage of them performing their duties, stuff in the public domain. Joe's statements were based entirely on his personal experience and within his county of residence, which that is something I do want to clear up. Mr. Foreman lives in Adams County, not Hamilton County. Mr. Klingler was wrong about that, so he is a resident of this county. Regarding the defamation claim, plaintiffs must prove that Mr. Foreman made false statements of fact, not his opinions. That's very important, because we all have opinions as Americans. It's one of the great things about this country is we can share our opinions whether we like them or not. Whether they like them or not, they can hear my opinions. But they must prove those statements were not opinions. Because public officials, they must prove that Joe acted with actual malice rather than just simply exercising his First Amendment right. The evidence will show they cannot meet this burden. Plaintiffs claim that Joe portrayed them in a false light, but evidence will show Joe used direct footage from security cameras. We can see what they did. They executed the search warrant. It's all on camera. There's nothing false about showing them that way. There's nothing false about Mr. Foreman having opinions about how they did and them. However, when they executed that search warrant, that became a matter of public scrutiny. People could watch it. People could see what was done and form their own opinions. And they can share those opinions. And he has a right to create artistic expression based on those opinions, based on that content. The plaintiffs, it goes without saying that they don't like what Mr. Foreman said about him. But they don't have to. That's part of our right in this country. They don't like his commentary. They don't like his art. But the First Amendment does not protect speech that we like. It protects all speech within it. It protects commentary, criticism, especially on occasions such as this. It protects speech that I would not like. Speech I've suffered. It protects it. You may not like the speech you hear, but it's protected. Throughout this trial, you'll hear testimony and see evidence that demonstrates several key points. You will see the actual videos and social media posts Mr. Foreman created. You'll be able to judge for yourselves whether they are false, whether they're his opinions, whether they're artistic expression that is all protected. It's about the right to comment on criticized public officials without fear of retribution, without fear of getting sued. It is about the right to create artistic expressions that are matters of public concern. The plaintiffs are law enforcement officers. They perform a cardinal public function. But with that public role comes public accountability. It also comes a certain standard that you have to understand. And as public officials, they can be criticized. They may not like it, but it's allowed. Plaintiffs have the burden of proving their claims. The evidence will show they cannot meet that burden. The evidence will show that Joe's videos, posts, and commentary were artistic expression for matters of legitimate public concern, his opinions on the law enforcement officers, and how they were performing their duties. If the plaintiffs prevail in this case, what message will that send to this country if they prevail? It sends the message that if you criticize law enforcement, if you comment on how they conduct themselves, if you mock them, if you create art with them in it, they can sue you. That's not the America we live in. That's not why we have a Constitution and the First Amendment. That's not why the First Amendment is in the Constitution of the state of Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen, upon the examination of the evidence at the end of this trial, I'm confident you'll conclude that Joe did nothing wrong. While the plaintiffs are unhappy, upset with what was said, he exercised a right he had, a right that every American has. He commented on matters of public concern. He created art. He did what any stand-up citizen would do. He made his voice heard to the people. At the end of this trial, I'm going to ask you to return a verdict in favor of Mr. Foreman on every one of their claims. I'll ask that you vindicate his First Amendment rights. And I'll ask that you send a message to the American people that you can criticize public officials and that we are not living in a dictatorship where if you don't like what is said, you just sue someone to shut them up. Thank you.
All right, so that was opening statements. Now we're going to get to the whole reason that we're here, which is Mr. Foreman takes the stand. Let me just get this pulled up. Now, give me a second here. I wish he was on the stand longer. He's only on for let me pull this back. Like some egos we watch, they're on the stand for days. Ozzy, thank you so much for your $2 donation there. Appreciate that. All right. Afroman taking the stand.
Start step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
Next.
The plaintiffs called Joseph Foreman as if on cross-examination.
It's a
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? As this, you shall answer unto God.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And have a seat.
Go ahead, Mr. Klingler.
Thank you, Your Honor. For the record, would you give us your name, please?
My name is Joseph Edgar Foreman.
You are known under the stage name as Afroman, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you create music videos and do performances, is
Yes,
that
sir.
right? How many states of the United States have you performed in, do you think?
All of them.
All 50.
Yes, sir.
And how many countries have you performed in?
I don't remember, but not all of them, but I've been to a few.
How many live performances did you do last year, roughly?
I don't know. Possibly 250. I don't know, but I don't know. It's a lot of days, but I don't know exactly.
And you have a residence here in Adams County, correct?
Yes, sir.
You've been performing for 20 or 30 years, is that right?
All my life.
All right. And is it fair to say that one of the first big hits you had was "But Then I Got High"?
Because I got high.
Because I Got High? And do you think it's accurate to say that that song has had over 300 million views on YouTube?
Sounds right.
You have a large presence on social media, obviously, correct?
Depends on your definition of large. There's bigger people than me, but I'm all right.
And on Instagram, is it fair to say that you have 247,000 followers?
Yeah, I just got some of them the other day.
You got new ones coming all the time?
Yes, not all the time, just here lately.
Because the trial's coming up?
Yeah, all the publicity from the officers lawsuing me is running up my numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on YouTube, you have almost 1 million followers, 983,000. Is that right?
I haven't looked. It was 977 last time I looked.
And on TikTok, you have about 392,000 followers?
I haven't looked at it, but that sounds kind of right.
You know when you post something that a lot of people are going to see it, don't you?
Yes.
When this search happened back in August of 2022, Mr. Foreman, you weren't at home?
No.
You were driving home from Chicago?
Yes.
And you got an alert from a family member that the sheriffs were there searching your home, is that right?
Yes.
And you were able to turn on your phone and watch through your home security system what the deputies were doing for a period of time, weren't you?
Yes.
And is it fair to say you were angry and upset about this search?
I wasn't happy.
And is that why you posted the things we've seen this week, because you weren't happy?
No, I posted it because the sheriff's never supposed to raid my house in the first place. The whole raid was a mistake. All of this is their fault. If they hadn't wrongly raided my house, there would be no lawsuit. I would not know their names. They wouldn't be on my body. They wouldn't be on my home surveillance system. And there would be no songs, nothing. My money would still be intact, nothing. So all of this is their fault.
And because they executed a search warrant on your home, that gave you the right to post the things that we've seen this week on the internet?
Because
Is that right? Is that right, Mr. Foreman?
Yes, for
Yes.
tearing down my door, not paying for it, not being apologetic, me being a sport, doing something peaceful to raise the money to pay for their damages, me having the right of the freedom of speech as an American to talk to my family, friends, and fans about what the sheriffs did to my home. Yes, I had the right to my freedom of speech. After they left, I had the right to kick the can and to do what I had to do to repair the damage they brought to my house. Yes, I did.
That includes the right to post the videos that you've just been posting up until Friday and beyond, right?
Yes, I have freedom of speech. I'm a rapper. I entertain. I write fiction, comedy. Yes, I mean, I entertain for a living like you practice law for a living. So I have to go to work.
The deputies left a warrant return at your house, didn't they?
I think they left something with my ex-wife. I'm not sure.
Well, you saw, as soon as the search was over, as soon as you got home, you saw a document that showed exactly how much cash had been taken from the house, correct?
I know I got paid $5,000 for the show that suit was in. I forgot that money was in that suit. But I heard, I don't know what piece of paper I heard. I knew they took some money. I just knew they took some money. I knew it was 4,000-ish. I knew they took some money and they seized some money and some weed and some, I don't know, what else, just minor stuff.
You knew how much money was in that pocket when you came home and saw the warrant returned, didn't you?
It was $5,000 from back when I did that show. I remember it was $5,000. But anyway.
So is it your testimony that they actually took $5,000 instead of $4,390?
No, I just know. I know when I did that show, it was with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa at Red Rocks in Denver. The balance of that show, for me, they sent in a deposit, but the balance was $5,000. I put the $5,000 in my coat pocket. I got drunk, I got high, and I forgot to get that money, and I hung that suit back up. And that's where they got that money from.
So it was $5,000 they got?
Yes. It was $5,000 that was in my suit when I got paid in Red Rocks. Now, after all of this stuff, whatever, it's I don't really know the complete number. It's 46, it's 430, the number bounces up and down. But all I know is I got paid $5,000 at the Red Rocks with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa when I played the Red Rocks in Denver.
And you got $4,000 returned, right?
I don't know the exact amount.
Well, you were there with the news when you got it.
Right, and the lady at the sheriff's station admitted that the sheriff's was short. You can go watch the 19 News.
You knew when you saw the warrant returned, didn't you, that the amount that they were saying was taken was actually more money than was in that suit pocket?
I didn't warrant.
That's why you brought the news to the sheriff's office when you got the money back, because you knew that they had miscounted the money and the number on the evidence bag was actually more money.
I didn't know nothing. The lady at the sheriff department just volunteered the information. I was sitting there, if she had been, I might not even known I got ripped off. She admitted it live on Channel 19 News that the money wasn't right.
You remember in your deposition when I asked you why did you bring the news when you picked up the money?
Yeah, I didn't want to get beat up or Epstein at the sheriff's station after I seen him running around my house with AR-15s. So that's why I brought the news and my attorney, so to make sure I got out of that place with my money.
You brought the news to protect you physically?
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't bring the news because you already knew there was a miscount and you were going to make.
I didn't know nothing about the miscount. I didn't know. I figured they stole my money. They turned my cameras off. So if you turn my cameras off, you must got something bad in mind. So yeah, I'm accusing them of it. They turned my cameras off. I can't see what they're doing.
So your testimony under oath here today to these 10 jurors is that you brought the news when you picked up your money to protect you physically from being beat up or shot by the sheriffs, right?
Yes.
All right.
And they volunteered the information that the money wasn't right. That's just an extra something we found out. But I came with my attorney and the news to make sure the people running around my house with guns didn't take me into jail and do something.
You had a safe in your home, correct?
2 of them.
2 safes. Did the sheriffs look into those safes, to your knowledge?
Yes, they did.
The deputies?
Yes.
And how did they get the combination?
I gave it to my ex-wife so the sheriffs wouldn't pull my safe out the floor, take it to the station and put something in it and try to say that whatever they put in my safe was mine. So I went ahead and gave my ex-wife, who I didn't want to give my combination to, it was just safer. I went ahead and gave her my combination so they could open up the safe and realize that they just vandalized somebody that don't even have nothing in the safe.
And do you know what was in those safes?
It was absolutely nothing in the safes.
Don't you keep jewelry in those safes?
No.
Didn't you tell me that in your deposition, that you keep jewelry in those safes?
I do. Was
anything missing from the safes when you got home after the search?
I didn't put nothing in the safes.
Was anything missing from the safes when you got home?
Nothing was in them, so nothing was missing from the safe.
You talked to Randy Walters on the phone before you got home that evening during the search, or right afterwards, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
He told you that they were taking some money and some vape pens and a small amount of marijuana. He told you that?
Yes, sir.
You knew, didn't you, Mr. Foreman, that there had been an investigation by the Claremont County Sheriff's Office into the discrepancy about the cash that was missing from your home, correct? You knew there was an investigation.
Yeah, I knew the sheriffs was investigating themselves.
Oh, that's how you saw it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you ever ask for a report so you could see how bad this investigation of themselves really was?
Yes, I was trying to get involved any way I can. The investigation was going on without any of my participation.
Did you ask for a copy of the report?
I did. I asked for everything. I was trying to be involved. I didn't.
So you've seen the report?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I just saw it a few minutes ago.
Well, you had an attorney when you got the cash returned, correct?
At the station?
Yes.
I had attorney. Yeah, my attorney was present.
Did your attorney ask for a copy of this report?
It wasn't when I got my cash back from the station, it wasn't an investigation until we realized money was missing.
Well, did you contact your attorney and say, hey, get me a copy of that report?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Well, Mr. Klingler wants to talk about his client's attorney-client privilege and maybe waive it. Mr. Foreman does have attorney-client privilege with his attorney at that time. And we are going to assert that privilege because it's a privilege he has of right.
And so far, he hasn't asked anything privileged. So I appreciate the sensitivity, overrule the objection, and we'll pay attention to it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Your testimony is you never saw a copy of Detective Robinson's report until today.
Yes, sir.
And that's because you didn't want to see a copy of the investigation.
I did want to see. You don't know what I want. I did want to see it.
You did.
I wanted everything that had something to do with my money coming.
And that was 3.5 years ago, correct? And you haven't seen a copy of that report that you wanted to see until this afternoon. Is that right?
That's right. I never had my money taken by cops. I didn't know how this go. I don't know about reports. All I know is live on Fox 19 News, the lady admits that her department is short $400 of my money. That's all I know. I don't know how to investigate police officers taking money.
That's all you know, and that's all you know today, isn't it? That's the whole basis of your claim that your money was stolen, is that the amount of money that was in the bags is different from the amount of money that was written on the bag.
Yeah, my whole thing is they never should have raided me in the first place.
That's your whole thing.
That's my whole thing.
That's the point,
That's my whole thing.
isn't it?
If they never would have showed up, there would be no songs about them. I wouldn't know who they are. Their faces would not be on my video cameras. None of this, we wouldn't be in this room right now if they hadn't raided my house and didn't press no charges, didn't even know what they was doing. This whole thing is their fault, and they're suing me for their mistake.
And so you don't really care if they stole your money or not. You're just mad about what they did.
I do care about if they stole my money. Police officers shouldn't be stealing the civilians' money. So I do care. All of it is an outrage. This whole thing is an outrage.
You have no evidence that they took your money except for the amount on the bag isn't the same as the amount.
How about the lady admitting that she took?
Could you answer my
question? She admitted that she took my money on live Fox 19 News. Go argue with the film clip. Well, go argue with her admitting that she took my money.
Nobody admitted that they took your money.
Well, whatever. Go look at her admitting that the bag is short because it stayed open all weekend long or 2 weeks after Brian and Officer Cooley just left it and just mishandled it and didn't do it right. Just
so we're honest with the jury here, Mr. Foreman, nobody admitted that they took your money, did they?
They admitted it was short.
Yes. Nobody admitted that they took your money. Correct?
It was short. She admitted, she said that it was short. And usually it's 10, 5, $2 missing. How does $400 even come up missing? Odd.
You posted videos about Brian Newland doing hard drugs and snitching on his friend, and you posted those based on rumors, didn't you? We can look at your deposition, but before you argue with me, but isn't that a fact that you made those allegations based on rumors you said you heard?
It's a fact. William Newland is a convicted pedophile, and Brian Newland is his brother. After I zeroed in on Brian, I asked about him. Come to find out, he's a large statutory rapist that has sex with all kind of underage girls. He buys them beers and gets them drunk and all kind. That's probably the reason he had to leave the Adams County Sheriff Department, because he beats up his wife and he messed with underage girls, and he had to get out of town and go get a job in Norwood.
All right. You don't want to answer my question.
I do. Please ask another one.
Well, let me ask this one again so I can get an answer. Do you remember in your deposition when I asked you, you have no reason to think these rumors about Brian Newland are true, do you? And you said, well, it's more entertaining if it's true, and I can make some money. Do you remember that?
No, I don't. That's a however long that deposition was. You can read the deposition and it tells you what I said.
Do we have a copy, another copy of that? Because I'll show it to you, and I can show you my copy. Refresh your recollection.
You're going to refresh his recollection.
It's
Trees. You then use the
Thank you, Judge. If I can get it working here.
Your Honor, I would object to using the screen to refresh his recollection. That's publishing it to the jury. If he wants to refresh his recollection, he can show him it and then ask him a question, much how we would do in criminal law with a police report.
So
if an officer didn't remember, we wouldn't show the report. We would show it to the officer. He would refresh his memory by reading it, and then we'd re-ask the question.
Do it that way. Just make sure you think he reads it right. I'm just trying to get through the verbiage. Just make sure you think he reads it right. Otherwise, I have to wrestle with you about whether he read it right.
Sure.
So just read it. And then if we want to move it as an exhibit, you can do that.
Remember your deposition being taken, Mr. Foreman, in your attorney's office on September 3rd, 2024.
I remember the deposition.
And that deposition was taken in D.J. Osborne's office?
Yes, sir.
That's the same office that you used to film that video that we saw last night with the actor playing Lieutenant Lisa Phillips, and that actor was sitting in the same chair that Lisa Phillips sat in during her deposition, wasn't she?
Yeah, the actor played Lisa because I wouldn't have known her if she hadn't came to my house and cut off my camera.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's the office we're talking about, and that's the office where I took your deposition, right?
Yes, sir.
And in that deposition, I'm referring to page 84 of the deposition. I had asked you about...
Object, he's testifying.
No, he's using the deposition to refresh his memory. He's doing it right, so sit down, please. Go ahead.
Did I ask you this question, and did you give me these answers, Mr. Foreman? Question: would it be fair to say these are rumors? Answer: Stephanie said it, and some other people that don't remember, I'd be in a hurry in Walmart or something, they shake my hand, yeah, Brian used to do this, used to do that. Then something, I didn't know him, but this is what I've heard. Question: you don't have any particular reason to think that it's true or not true, right? Answer: well, it's more entertaining if it is true, and I could probably make some money and capitalize on it if it's true.
What are the line numbers?
Starting with line 7 and ending with line 21. Did I ask you those questions and you give me those answers?
I don't remember. That was a long time ago. But
But that's my question.
I've always
Thank you.
put Brian Newland next to his brother, so that's
Yeah.
my basis, and I've always...
We noticed that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
your
so-
attorney's going to be able to ask you whatever questions he wants. Right now, I'd like you to focus on my questions, Mr. Foreman. You have no evidence that Brian Newland ever molested little boys, do you?
If you look at the picture, he's holding the little boy's butt. It's too much for me. So if you just use your eyeballs, and then his brother's a convicted pedophile.
That's your evidence for posting that
Well,
pedophile stuff
Hey,
about little boys.
I'm trying to figure out what kind of guy is kicking on my door. What kind of guy is walking around my house reading my bank statements? It's a dude that's possibly a pedophile, got a convicted pedophile brother, deputized by the sheriff, walking around possibly stealing my money. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on as I zoom in with my cameras. That's not the type of guy I don't think should be on the police force.
I'm going to refer you again to your deposition. If you don't trust my reading of it, I'm happy to give it to you, Mr. Foreman. But on page 98 of your deposition, on that same day, beginning at 9/11, did I ask you this question and did you give me this answer? And again, the only evidence, you don't have any evidence that Brian Newland is a pedophile or plays with little boys. Answer, no, sir. Did I ask you that question? Did you give me that answer?
I don't remember.
Further line number.
Beginning with line 11, ending with line 14 on page 98. You have no evidence that Lisa Phillips stole your money, do you?
I know if she hadn't raided my house, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Nor a lawsuit or nothing. They never should have been at my house.
Since you're not going to answer my question, I'm going to go back to your deposition again, Mr. Foreman, page 102.
Your Honor, if I may, can I just enter a continuing objection so I don't have to object every time he does the deposition?
No, it's too important, so please be specific. Thank you.
So I would enter a notation of objection at this point. He is now testifying for the witness. He is no longer refreshing his recollection.
I'll be sensitive to that, so you can rephrase and I'll sustain that. You made the conclusion you didn't have memory, so you've got to go back and fix that.
All right, Judge, I will. Thank you. Do you remember telling me in your deposition, Mr. Foreman, that you don't have any evidence that Lisa Phillips stole your money?
Yeah, she cut off the cameras, but I didn't know who took them. So, for all the officers was a suspect at first, because I didn't know where. After the deposition, I realized that Brian Newland was in charge of the money, and I knew where to focus everything. But at first, all the cops was a suspect, especially after they cut off my cameras, and I couldn't see what they were doing.
All right. Well, so you don't remember? Is that what you're telling me?
I remember telling you that Lisa, probably didn't take my money,
Okay.
but I just didn't know. I just knew it was missing, and they cut off my cameras, so all of them were suspects until I figured it out.
So until you figured it out?
Until everybody figured it out, until it was solved of where the missing money was.
All right. So just to clear this up and move on, you admit that you don't have any evidence that Lisa Phillips stole your money?
No. But I know if she wasn't there in the first place, we wouldn't be having this conversation or be here.
And is it true that one of your big motivation, really, in making all of these posts is to make money?
To pay for the damage that they brought to my house under the circumstance that they shouldn't have even been there in the first place.
Okay. So the answer to my question is yes, your motivation was to make money?
To pay for the damages that they brought to my house under the circumstances that they shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Have you made enough yet to make up for it?
Not really. You know.
How much have you made on it?
I don't know exactly, but it wasn't hardly $24,000.
$24,000.
It wasn't that. It wasn't that.
You're still making money on today, right? With the new posts and advertisements and things.
It's publicity.
You're still selling merchandise, aren't you?
No. Publicity, just me, just everybody. You know, thanks to them bringing publicity to this, it's just an opportunity to run numbers up and be an entertainer.
And the more lies, outrageous lies you tell about them, the more money you can make, right?
Fact, they never should have came to my house in the first place. Fact, if they hadn't have came to my house, they wouldn't have put themselves on the video camera and in my music career. All of this is their fact. All of this is their fault, and they have the audacity to sue me. These people and you are the predators and the victim at the same time.
So what they did, searching your house, gave you the right to do everything you
Under the circumstance that I got freedom of speech, after they run around my house with guns and kick down my door, I got the right to kick a can in my backyard, use my freedom of speech, turn my bad times into a good time. Yes, I do. And I think I'm a sport for doing so, because I don't go to their house, kick down their doors, flip them off on their surveillance cameras, then try to play the victim and sue them.
You were at Lisa Phillips's deposition, correct?
Yes, sir.
In your lawyer's office?
Yes, sir.
Same office where you filmed part of that video last Friday?
Yes, sir.
And you saw how upset she was when she was answering your lawyer's questions about how this had affected her, right?
Yes, yes.
And you saw your attorney say, do we need to take a break?
Yes.
And you saw her say, no, let's go on and get this over with.
Yes, sir.
You saw all that.
Yes.
You knew she was upset.
Just like she knew I was upset when she was standing in front of my kids with an AR-15 with her hand around the trigger ready to shoot me. Just like she knew I was upset when she cut my cameras. But I'm not a person, she is. So I'm sorry for being a victim. Let's talk about the predators.
Okay. So you saw all that. You saw how upset she was. You heard the testimony about her children. You heard the testimony at the depositions about Randy Newland's daughter who came home upset. You heard all that. But you're still posting stuff about it.
Yeah, because I understand it was Randy's fault and all of their fault for coming in my house in the first place. So if they hadn't came to my house, their children wouldn't be saying nothing. None of this would be going home if they did their research and did things right. So all of this is their fault. And now they want to sue me for their mistake.
Is there anything that could change your mind about what you're doing to these deputies?
Is there anything that can change my mind about the fact that they shouldn't have been at my house in the first place? Is there anything that can change my mind about how my money shouldn't have been touched in the first place? No.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you want to continue? I'm sorry, Mr. Osborne. Do you want to continue the direct examination of your client now?
Your Honor, I was going to actually ask for a sidebar so we can talk about that.
Okay, so let's just talk about it.
Okay, so I was actually going to not do cross with Mr. Foreman this time. I was going to hold off until our case in chief.
Yeah, I just offered you the chance to do that. So do you want to do your direct examination on your case in chief right now?
Not right now, Your Honor.
Like the pogo stick of witnesses up and down is what I was talking about. If he testifies on his own direct case, it could be now or it could be later. I just gave the lawyer a chance to do it now or later. He said later. So you'll likely see Mr. Foreman again. This was an examination on the plaintiff's case. You get a chance to hear his testimony on his case. There's your explanation. Thanks, Mr. Foreman. You can stand up.
Plaintiffs rest subject to the admission of all our exhibits, Judge.
Okay, thank you. We'll deal with the exhibits on a break.
All right. He doesn't take the stand again. Let me just double check. Because they have one woman on, and then they hold on a sec. Just want to make sure. I'm almost positive he does not take the stand again. Yeah, they rest after, so that's the only time he takes the stand. Yeah, so he does not take the stand again. All right, so let's go to closing arguments.
Got into the mind of kids pretty well.
Yes.
All right, let me get this queued up. Yes, Queen's Curl. So for Ego Takes the Stand for this series, we don't play the entire trial. We just play openings. Usually I do a little news clip or two, maybe a couple news clips. Openings, the plaintiff, the defendant. I'm sorry, not the plaintiff. Always the defendant takes the stand, which is the whole point of Ego Takes the Stand. And then we do closing arguments, verdict, and if they're found guilty, then we do sentencing. So that's the whole point of this, the Ego Takes the Stand episode, is that we focus on openings, the person, the defendant taking the stand, and then closings with the verdict, and then if found guilty, then sentencing. So we will only watch him on the stand.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience. Have a seat. That actually was about 45 minutes, so I didn't gauge my time very well, but thank you for your patience. We are moving ahead, as you know, so most people don't growl about that, but I try to at least respect your time and tell you what we're doing. We made it through, like, the corrections to the jury instructions. Like I've been trying to educate you all the way through. The jury instructions are the textbook at the end. So the lawyers had a chance to drill those down. As I said before, closing arguments are the attorney's argument about what they think the evidence means and how you should do whatever it is they think you should do. So they go first, Mr. Klingler, then Mr. Osborne, then Mr. Klingler. There's like a total of 35 minutes. So I'm going to think 20, 35, 15. But Mr. Klingler can kind of manipulate his time depending on how he wants to do it. So in an hour, you'll be talking to me for about 30 minutes of instructions before you start your deliberations. That's what's ahead of you. If you take notes, just write down argument, not evidence. Go ahead, Mr. Klingler.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, folks. When this trial started, I told you it was about intentional lies that are designed to hurt people. It's not about freedom of speech. It's about defamation. It's about false light defamation, intentional lies designed to hurt people. You've heard all the evidence. You've seen the witnesses. I'm not going to go over it. But I will say a few things to underscore what I think is most important for you to keep in mind as this case is turned over to you. From me, from the plaintiffs, to you. Mr. Foreman perpetuated lies intentionally, repeatedly, over 3.5 years on the internet about these 7 brave deputy sheriffs who've lived in this county for years, risked their lives for this county for years, done their job, been in the community for many, many years. Mr. Foreman did it intentionally. Mr. Foreman knew that what he posted on the internet were lies. He knew there was no theft. He knew there was no sex with Randy Walters' wife. And he certainly knew all of the stuff he's repeatedly posted about Lisa Phillips up until Friday and probably later were lies too. What are we going to do about that? Mr. Foreman told you from the witness stand there's nothing we can do to stop him because he has freedom of speech to lie about people intentionally. During jury selection, we talked about that. And you all agreed that it's not okay to tell an intentional lie about someone that hurts them. We all agreed. And the judge is going to tell you that in the law that he gives you. So Mr. Foreman is legally wrong when he says he has free speech to tell harmful lies about people and get away with it. That's just legally wrong. You also told me in jury selection that even if somebody does something to you that hurts you, that you think is wrong, like a search warrant execution that you think was unfair, even if somebody does that to you, you told me, we all agreed, that that doesn't justify telling intentional lies designed to hurt people. That's what you think. That's what the community thinks. That's what decent people think. But Mr. Foreman thinks it's okay to do what he's done over 3.5 years because they executed a search warrant that broke down his door and disconnected his cameras. You heard from the witness stand from Mr. Foreman the callous indifference that he showed to what he's done, the harm he's done. It's imprinted in your minds, I'm sure, like it is in mine, the tears, the agony from some of these witnesses. Don't forget that when you're back in the jury room. That's what this case is about. You are here because you agreed to be here. You showed up on the first day. Not everybody does. A lot of people don't respond to their summons. You did. I asked you, do you want to be on this jury? And you all said, yes, I agreed to be on this jury. You're all here now, in this place, in this courtroom, for a reason. And I believe there's a power higher than us that brought you here today to do this job and that you are the chosen people to do it. Nobody else is going to do it. There's not going to be another trial. There's not going to be a second chance. This is the day to decide whether Mr. Foreman gets away with what he's done and whether these plaintiffs deserve something to make up for what they've been through, and whether the community is told that what he did is unacceptable. It's not okay. We talked about different kinds of damages. There's not going to be economic damages in this case. There's no doctor bills. There's no damaged property. There's damage to reputation. There's pain and suffering. There's public humiliation. There's everything you saw and heard from these detectives from the witness stand. And the only thing you can do as a jury to decide this case is to render a verdict of money that somehow stands in, somehow represents the harm that these deputy sheriffs have been put through over 3.5 years. That's all you can do. You can't issue an order that says stop. You can't issue an order that says, say you're sorry. All you can do is issue a verdict for an amount that fairly stands in, represents what they've been through, what they've lost. No one else is going to do it. The judge isn't going to do it. Court of Appeals isn't going to do it. It's your job. And you're the people meant to do it. Now, I told you in jury selection, if we got to this point, I'd try to give you some ideas about how to evaluate what kind of verdict might make sense in this case. I told you then, and I'll tell you now, there's no formula. There's no easy answer. But there is an answer. And it's the answer that you folks decide among yourselves fairly represents the injuries that these deputies have suffered. And I'll start by posing this question. Do you think that if there had been an advertisement in some newspaper that said, we will give you $2 million if you are willing to go through what Lisa Phillips has been through for the last 3.5 years? Would you take that deal? Do you think she would have taken that deal? Yeah, $2 million, that's a, maybe I'll go through that. Of course not. Do you think Randy Walters, do you think Brian Newland, do you think any of these deputies would have accepted some amount of money in order to go through, in exchange for going through what they've been through? I don't think so. And I think you know nothing is worth going through what they've been through. And, of course, he says he's not going to stop. He says nothing can stop it. Maybe something can stop him if you tell him through your verdict that he needs to stop. I'm going to tell you what I believe is a fair verdict for these plaintiffs. And it's up to you, of course, again, to make the decision. But I would ask you, I'm going to ask you, and there's a verdict form which, excuse me 1 minute. Folks, I'm going to show you these forms that you're going to be filling out, just so you're familiar with them. This is just an example. You're going to have a different form for each of these plaintiffs, okay? This one happens to be a verdict form for Lisa Phillips. And I believe the evidence is overwhelming that you'll find in favor of Lisa Phillips. This happens to be her false light claim. There's a separate claim for defamation, a separate form for defamation, and you'll see the jury instructions. Judge Hine has already talked some about that with you. So this is just an example of the verdict form that I'm going to ask you all to sign in favor of Lisa Phillips and all of the plaintiffs on their false light and their defamation claims. Now, there's another form called an interrogatory, and I'm just showing you Lisa Phillips's form. And it says, we, the jury, find damages for plaintiff as follows. And then it gives a little description of the kind of damages. And there's a line for your decision, and there's signature lines for each of you to sign. For Lisa Phillips, I'm not going to show you every form. For Lisa Phillips, folks, I'm asking you to put $1.5 million in that verdict form. $1.5 million for Lisa Phillips from what she's been through for 3.5 years. May be going through for who knows how long. For Brian Newland, I'm asking you to issue a verdict for $1 million for what he's been through with his family, the loss of his dream job here in Adams County. For Randy Walters, I'm asking you for a verdict of $1 million for what he's been through with the allegations and vile videos about his wife. For the other 4 plaintiffs, Sean Grooms, Sean Cooley, Justin Cooley, and Mike Estep. I'm asking you for a total, for all four of them, of $400,000 divided among them however you see fit based on their testimony. You, of course, can award less. You can issue a verdict for more. That's what I'm asking you to say in your verdict form based on this testimony. Now, let me close my remarks by looking into the future here and looking at the future if there's a verdict for the plaintiffs and you award the plaintiffs a fair amount of money. What happens? The plaintiffs are vindicated. The court of public opinion out there, the press, which I know you haven't been looking at, they don't know the facts. You know the facts. And a verdict for the plaintiff will say they were wronged, he was wrong. A verdict for the plaintiffs will make up in some way for what they've been through. A verdict for the plaintiffs will say that we don't condone, we don't approve, you can't get away with what Mr. Foreman's done. Not in this community, not in this country. That's not freedom of speech where we live. That's what a verdict for the plaintiffs will say. Let's look at another possible future if there were to be a verdict for the defendant, or if there were to be a verdict with a small amount of money attached to it. In that case, in that world, in that future, the world is told what he did is okay. What they went through is no big deal. We don't really care. We think it's fine. That's what a verdict for the defendant or a small verdict would say. They would go home subject to even more ridicule. Yeah, you took him on and you lost. See, what he did was fine. I don't have to tell you, you know, that's not the message we want to send. It's not the message you want to send. Folks, I'm done. I've done all I can. These folks called me 3 years ago now and asked, what can we do to stop this? And here we are today. I've done what I can. They've done what they can. They've suffered through the publicity. They could have stopped this case at any time if they would have kowtowed to the pressure, public humiliation that Mr. Foreman continued to put them through, but they didn't. They bravely stood behind their case and their right not to be dragged through the mud with lies in the media. They've done all they can. And now I am giving their case and this decision to you. It's out of my hands. You have to decide. what to say to Mr. Foreman and what to say to the community about what he's done and the effects that it's had on these folks. I have full confidence, I fully trust you to make the right decision, to make a fair decision, and to come back with a verdict that's fair for each one of these plaintiffs and that tells the community what you really think about this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Clinton. You have 11 minutes after that. Final. And Mr. Osborne.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. This has been a long 3 days. It took a second for me to even count the number. It's been so long. A lot's happened. You've done your duty as jurors. You've paid attention to the evidence. I'm proud of that. What makes our country great is you have the right to have a jury trial. You have the right to people in the community to see this, weigh the evidence, and make a decision. And I'm proud that you guys are here and doing that. We started this time, I talked about this case was about freedom of speech. But let's talk about what it's also about. It's also about music. Not all music is tasteful. Not everybody likes all music. There's some songs I hate. I think we can find plenty of people that find songs they do not like. But Mr. Foreman, Joe, is a rapper and comedian. It's what he's done his whole life is rap, make songs. We got to think of what rap is, because music does not exist in a vacuum. Music evolves over time. Take a look at jazz. It's evolved. At one time, it was distinct in a certain subculture, and it has now expanded. Rap is the same. Rap started out as a means for people to express social commentary, opinions through entertainment. Look at the song by NWA, or they call it Fuck the Police. I think I said that right. It's a social commentary on what was going on in their lives. Their personal effect, the personal things happening to them, combined with entertainment, which unfortunately is exaggeration. Opinion, nothing of fact in that song. It's a commentary on society. And so when you look at rap, you see that over and over again. I had my secretary print me a couple songs, rap songs, while I was pouring a cup of coffee. And the first one was Carly B, WAP. I find it bad to say what WAP means, but it's a popular song. I think it's somewhat derogatory. But then again, I'm not the audience for that song, and I know that. I know nothing in that song. Nothing talking about is true. I know it's entertainment. I know it's social commentary. Miss Grooms testified even her students knew that at a young age. The same thing I knew when I was watching Johnny Carson, The Late Night Show, and SNL, Saturday Night Live, with my grandfather when I was a kid. That's all entertainment. They make fun of everybody for entertainment. And some of it is a social commentary. But it is not fact. And everybody knows that. Nobody looks at Lil Wayne's song Pussy Monster and says there's a monster in that song. Everybody knows it's exaggeration for entertainment. Is he commenting on something? Sure. But it's not fact. And I can keep going. Megan Thee Stallion with Sex Talk. I mean, it just goes on. They use derogatory language. It's designed to entertain. Drew Hastings, former mayor of Hillsborough, was a comedian. I got to go to one of his stand-ups. Some of it was funny, some of it wasn't. Some of his jokes, like those of Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor, some of them are not tasteful, but they're still jokes. They're not facts. And we know that. That's what a reasonable person listening to that would understand. And that's the point. This is not a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum. Let's face it, if we lived in a vacuum, we'd all be dead because we couldn't breathe. So we live in a world full of everything, where we see things. We watch SNL. We know it's entertainment. We know it's going to pick on people. We understand that they're picking on public officials. Hell, they picked on Joe. They pick on Donald Trump all the time, Sleepy Joe. I mean, go down the list, even Teflon Ron was made fun of. So, as you go back, nobody thinks that's fact. Nobody's going to take it that way. When they post their clips on YouTube, when they post their clips on Facebook, people don't look at it and go, that's the truth. No, they understand it's comedy. They understand they're going to talk about it going forward. And if you look at his posts, you see the little signs of that too. Iteration. Things that you see in a song. I mean, because after all, you know, a song's catchy, right? It has a beat, song, you know, words rhyme. You know, she thinks my tractor's sexy, and, you know, it sticks with you. When we listen to Lemon Poundcake, you heard the iteration. You heard how it came together as entertainment. So we don't exist in a vacuum, and a reasonable person doesn't exist in a vacuum. As the judge has said, you are a reasonable people. You get to decide what's reasonable, which means you get to use your experience. You get to use your understanding of what those are, of your understanding of Joe, of your understanding of rap music, music in general. I'm not going to sit here and say that these 7 people were happy about what happened to them. I'm not going to say that. That'd be stupid. But what I am going to say is, they are public officials. We see it on the news all the time, public officials made fun of. Let's go back to voir dire. During my voir dire, we talked about, with the one juror that's gone, we talked about that, yes, I ran for public office. She agreed I put myself out as a public official. She agreed that it was an opinion when someone called me a baby killer. Even our witnesses on the stand, I asked that question. They said a crooked defense attorney is not a vine, it's a matter of opinion. Crooked cops, dirty defense attorneys. Oh wait, one witness did want to say I might not have taken a shower. But those are all opinions, exaggerations, not statements of fact. And we know that. And that's why public officials are held to a higher standard. Because that standard is what is expected of them as subjecting themselves to public scrutiny. They all testified that people have criticized their work. I mean, after all, we look at the search. There is, even Mr. Newland admitted it wasn't perfect. I think we can see from how the money was handled, the investigation. I would have liked to have seen a more thorough job myself. I mean, we have a chain of custody, the money that just leaves it laying there. Mr. Newland didn't know that. We have an unsealed evidence bag. We have 10% of all evidence, money evidence in the Adams County evidence locker miscounted. And then, keep in mind that that miscount on those is less than what is alleged to miss here. We got people saying we had a miscount, yet they can't even bother to notify the court in an official document that they made a mistake. Just let it ride. As far as the public record knows, which they never corrected, Mr. Foreman never got back all of his money. They want to talk about an investigation, but they can't even put in a single piece of paper to correct his mistake. I don't know if I call that lazy or what. But I think it goes to what you consider a fact. Because what is a fact? We can't always know what a fact is. A fact is something you can disprove, right? But can we truly disprove that? Looking at all the evidence, there is questions. If there's questions, it's not a fact. Now, people will form opinions based on that. I formed an opinion. I imagine everybody here's formed an opinion. We know that they formed an opinion because they didn't like being called a thief. So that was their opinion. But people are allowed to have opinions. People are allowed to express them. What people are expressing when they call them thief is not a literal statement. It is not a fact. It is a social commentary on the fact that they didn't do things correctly. And they can't even articulate how they could fix it. That is a social commentary if I ever heard one. They don't like it? That's not their choice to like it or not. They're public officials. They're going to be held to a higher standard. Their work's going to be criticized. I mean, that's just what happens when you're a public official. No reasonable person would expect a police officer not to be criticized. They've all been called names before. Has it affected them personally? Yes. Miss Grooms testified it made no difference in her life. Her kids didn't take it seriously. And she's taught for damn near 30 years. But they seem to take it seriously. And I come back to Mr. Grooms. He's worried about going out on a call and being shot. Now maybe I'm old-fashioned. But if I'm going out on a call, I'm worried about getting shot, I'm going to call my wife and tell her to be safe. Not sit here and go, I'm worried about me. That's not what you do. You take care of your family. Mr. Walters wanted to point that out. That just goes to show us he didn't take it seriously. Now, I'm not going to say they're not afraid. Anytime they go on a call, the highway patrol will tell you scariest thing's a traffic stop. You know nothing about the person, you're there by yourself, and things can change in an instant. Is that scary? Fuck yeah. I'd be scared. But if you're truly scared, you take the steps for it. You start having your family do stuff. You start doing that. If you believe what you're saying, you take the steps towards it. You didn't take the steps. No one else talked about how they took the steps either, did they? And why does that matter? Because a reasonable person is going to look at that. After all, let's go back to me not taking a shower. How would you know I didn't take a shower? Hair clumpy, probably matted, probably got dirt all over me. That's how you would see. That's how you would prove if that's an opinion or fact. Now, even then you might say Dave just fell in the mud. But no reasonable person would take it in the vacuum. And I want you to think about everything in context. What rap is music. How it's entertainment. How the language works on it. How jokes are made. I want you to think back to that. Because that colors how you see it. I love picking on Joe. He's a good sport for it. Look at that suit. Does this look like a man who thinks that everybody's going to assume that everything he's saying is fact? I mean, he's like a comedian. He exaggerates for the sake of entertainment. That's who he is. I'm not going to say it's tasteful to everyone, but some people do find it entertaining. I asked an important question about them. I said, do you believe everything in the newspaper? No. Do you believe everything you read on the internet? No. We all know that to be true. A reasonable person knows that. People can post opinions, social commentary, and hurtful things all over the internet. And it is just to be expected. That's why we are supposed to use our own filter, use our common sense, use our experiences in life. So while hurtful, it was not fact. It was music, entertainment. Stuff that no reasonable person would understand. Especially not a public official. Because we see it on TV all the time. We see it on the internet. You see it on Facebook. Sometimes people want to turn off Facebook because there's so much political commentary and stuff. But that's expected. Do I expect everything I read's fact? I don't even think most of it's fact. I think it's everybody's opinion, and opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one and it stinks. But that doesn't mean they can't have them. That doesn't mean they can't express them, and that doesn't mean they can't make a song about it. Truth is a defense. That's why we talked about the theft. That's why we showed all that. because I wanted you to see how the money was handled. There's a lot of confusion around it, and for that reason. Before I get to another point, I want to address something that's bouncing around my head. Bob says, what does this message send if you find for Mr. Foreman? I rephrase that question a little differently. What does this message send if we find that music and social commentary, while maybe not the most tasteful thing in the world, is silenced because a public official, while hurt by it, yes, unhappy by it, yes, pissed off, yes, emotional, yes. What opinion does that sound? I mean, if you can sue people, music artists, comedians, to shut them down, that's what we're looking at here. I'm sorry they feel the way they do. But there's a certain amount that you have to take as a public official. It's part of the duties as a job. As we talked about during voir dire, as I've talked about them being called a baby killer, there's certain things you take and you move on. It's part of the job. The plaintiffs, or I should say Bob, talks about how they wanted it to stop. Where was the certified cease and desist letter? Where was all this done? None of that was done until after they started the lawsuit. Until after they brought it to court to make it stop. That's what they wanted to. They wanted to make it stop. Yet they asked for money. The commentary on them is nebulous at best. You can see that when you look at it. We have Beetle Bailey, Gomer Pyle, Colonel King Kong Bundy. Some of these names are not as bad as others, yes, but they're all for artistic purpose. They're all for jokes. They're all for entertainment. This is not to paint them in a real light. No reasonable person would think that. It's kind of interesting because even Mr. Newland agreed that when he was called a pedophile by Mr. Foreman, yes, that is a horrible thing to call a person. But even he said it was Mr. Foreman's opinion. So he didn't believe it was a fact. If your own witness doesn't believe it's a fact, how can a reasonable person find it's a fact? Bob went to great lengths to say nothing will stop him. Shows us where we're at. We got to stop his expression. We got to stop entertainment. We got to stop exaggeration. That's what Bob's talking about. What chilling effect does that have on the world we live in? Think about it. You don't like what a commissioner does. You don't like what our prosecutor does. You don't like what any public official does, and you make a joke. And you're drugging the court. It may not have been a tasteful joke. May have been a bad joke. May have been the greatest joke ever. But what we're saying is if they don't like it, we're back here. What does that say to you? Freedom of speech. What does that say to the world we live in? That's what this case is about. And Bob knows that. That's why he mentions it. That's why when you look at defamation and the jury instructions, you'll see that the first element of it is a statement. Portrayal of fact. Has to be portrayed as fact. No music video portrays as a fact. I don't watch Fuck Those Police and turn around and say, you know what, that's a fact. No. I say that's a song, it's entertainment, and move on. Sometimes I try to figure out what the words mean, what kind they're getting at, but I don't expect them to present a fact. Fourth element is the proximate cause. It's an interesting question there, because you'll get the definition of causation and proximate. And we never talked about that really during the trial. It's going to be something that I want to discuss. They talked about getting phone calls. None of those posts. Joe never said, call them and tell them this. Mr. Cooley testified that they mailed pound cakes to the office. Joe never said send them a lemon pound cake. These are things that other people have done. Joe never directed them to do it. He didn't cause it. He made a joke. He cannot control how people take it. What they do, he's not that. All he can do is make a joke, make a song. So that's something to consider. Was he the proximate cause, or was it someone else? I want you to understand, when they get to the question of malice, if you get that far, it has to be actual malice. Public officials, it's a higher standard. Why? Because we hold public officials to a high standard. Let's talk about the false light. That's their second cause of action. That says that a reasonable person would be justified in the eyes of the community, feeling seriously offended and aggrieved. I want you to go in on the eyes of the community. They want to say people's humiliating them, calling them names. The reality is a reasonable person in the eyes of the community is going to say, it's a song. It's a joke. I was flabbergasted to hear it myself, that they even thought it was a joke before they brought the lawsuit. Go to a Halloween party and bring a lemon pound cake. That, I almost have no words for that, honestly, because I get, we're hurt, but it's a joke. Which one is it? So, a reasonable person in the eyes of the community would understand it's a joke. Mr. Estep testified about the joke of the shirt. We got the pound cake joke. There's various jokes for this. This was not as negative. This has not changed their view in the eyes of the community, because your reputation, which is what they claim is hurt, your reputation is like a shirt. You eat a hot dog, you drop mustard on it, you get stains on your shirt. Nobody's reputation is clean. Everything you do affects your reputation. The way you perform your job affects your reputation. They all admitted to that on the stand, because I asked that question. They all said it does. How they counted that money affects their reputation. People can form opinions based on how they did their job and criticize them on it. That's a right we have. You have to forgive me, I have to flip through these some. We didn't have a lot of time to prepare as things change on the fly. I think as you go back and deliberate, take a look at all the exhibits, analyze it in the context of music, entertainment, opinion, social commentary. It's not a fact. And if you look at it, you can see that. Like I said, it may not be tasteful, may not be nice, but even SNL's not nice. South Park's not nice. These things are social commentaries, jokes, entertainment. And some of them are not nice. But you don't have to like everything. You don't have to like everything said about you, and you don't have the right to tell everybody that everything said about you should be sued for. Especially if you're a public official. As such, I ask you to deliver a verdict in Joe's favor on all claims. I ask that because when you look at it, no reasonable person could see it as a fact. No reasonable person could see it as even false light. The community, if they called them, if people called them, that's because the social commentary resonated with someone, resonated with what people experienced in the world. We've lived through a turbulent year. So we've all seen on the news what people are experiencing all over the country. social commentary resonates because of that. That doesn't make him the proximate cause. That shows a deeper concern in our country that we should be addressing, not sitting here trying to decide if a music video is a fact or not. That's what's at issue here. And I'm confident as you go back in deliberations, you'll come to that conclusion too. And with that, I thank you again for your service, because it is not easy, and what you're about to do is not easy. It takes time and deliberation. It takes hard work. And I appreciate that you guys are willing to do it. And I reiterate again, that's what makes us a great country. Thank you very much.
Mr. Osborne? Go ahead, Mr. Flanagan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing Mr. Osborne said about sexually explicit songs out in society refer to specific people in the community, like the songs that are at issue here. It's not the same thing. We all know that. These weren't opinions. Mr. Foreman didn't say, in my opinion, Brian Newland is a pedophile. In my opinion, they're all thieves. In my opinion, I fucked his wife doggy style. He said it like they were facts. And I think Judge Hine is going to instruct you, based on everything that's happened so far, that these were not opinions, they were stated as fact, and your job is to decide whether those facts were true or not. And we know they're not. The case isn't about lemon pound cake. It's about intentional lies designed to hurt people, and they hurt people. If somebody in the jury room says, well, what about his First Amendment rights? You know, and the law tells you, that doesn't allow lies that hurt people. If someone tells you it's just artistic expression, he ought to be free to say what he wants, the answer is he's not allowed to wrap up harmful lies into songs, so-called art, put them out there and get away with it. The packaging of the lie doesn't make it okay. The message was clear. And Mr. Foreman doesn't get to wrap himself in the American flag and say, you can't touch me, I can say what I want, no matter how untrue it is, no matter how much pain it causes people, no matter for how long, because I have freedom of speech. He can't do that. I'm confident you'll tell him he can't do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan.
All right, so those were closing arguments, and now I think I can get to the verdict here. I don't think I have to leave this stream. Oh wait, no, I guess I do. All right, so we're going to jump over to the verdict now. So the jury deliberated from noon until 6:15. So about 6 hours and 15 minutes or so. So let me just cue us up here. All right. All right, so here's the verdict. So I'll make sure there is sound.
You just want to move that note, don't you? Just wait until the judge instructs you to get it to
Okay, go ahead and have a seat. So the court was informed the jury reached a verdict, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. So if you'll hand the verdict forms to the bailiff, he'll hand them to me so I can take a look at them. I looked at the form of the papers, essentially to see if they're properly signed. So that's the next thing that happens. Thank you. With regard to decorum, I don't expect any responses from anybody. It's been an emotional case. It's been a well-tried case. The lawyers did what they should do. The parties did what they should do. I just want to remind everybody that how the verdict comes out isn't something of public comment. So if you have an emotional attachment to the verdict, don't express it. Wait till you get out of the building before you let your emotions out. So the verdict forms are properly executed, properly completed. Copies will be made available to the parties. In all circumstances, the jury finds in favor of the defendant. No plaintiff verdict prevailed. So the matter will be concluded with defense verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Klingler. Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Thank you to the court staff and the Sheriff's Department for security in the building. And we'll go ahead and stand in adjournment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys want to go on into the jury room?
Go ahead and relax, whatever it is you need.
Don't forget your pose.
Have the jury go that way. Have them go back into their room.
If you guys don't mind to hang out in there for a little bit, I can get you, okay?
All right.
Thank you, sir.
I guess that's it. I wasn't sure if there was anything. He doesn't really see anything else. All right, we're going to get to Afroman's reaction. Now, apparently, a juror did go on defense diaries. Bob and Allie talked to a female juror. So I encourage you guys, if you want to go check that out. I was looking around to see if any jurors talked, like on the news or something that I could play.
Outside this Adams County.
But I didn't find anything from a news source. But Defense Diaries, I would, if you guys want to go check them out, they talked to a juror there. All right, so here's Afroman coming out of the courtroom.
Outside this Adams County courthouse, the sound of victory. After jury sided with the musician Afroman, whose real name is Joseph Foreman, after a days-long civil defamation trial. Afroman speaking to WCPO right after the verdict.
I didn't win. America won. America still has freedom of speech. It's still for the people, by the people.
The jury finds in favor of the defendant.
7 Adams County Sheriff's deputies sued the musician. They argued Afroman used security video from a 2022 raid of his home and put it in music videos using deputies' likeness without permission.
There's damage to reputation, there's pain and suffering, there's public humiliation. There's everything you saw and heard from these detectives from the witness stand.
This raid taking place nearly 4 years ago following search warrants related to possession and trafficking in drugs and kidnapping. The rapper was never charged. Along with using the surveillance video in multiple music videos, including in the song Lemon Poundcake, the deputies also say Afroman called them thieves and pedophiles, among other things, on social media.
I didn't go down here and sue the police department. I fixed up the damages they made, and I sung songs about them to raise money to do it. They were unapologetic.
The deputies wanted Afroman to pay $3.9 million in damages.
We got about a total of 250 pieces given out. This is the last one, and I'd like to give it to you.
Supporters of Afroman coming from near and far with the message both verbally and symbolically.
For me, this isn't really about Afroman. It's about free speech. So when someone like Afroman stands up for my free speech by using his talents, his musical talents, to fight the corrupt system, we got to come out and support him.
I'm glad things went my way, but if they would have took it all from me, I was happy about all the love I was getting from everybody after them people kicked my door in.
In Adams County,
when life give you lemons, you make lemon pound cake.
Jay Shakur, WCPO 9 News.
When life gives you lemons, you make lemon pound cake. All right, so now we're going to get to, we're not quite done yet. I have his countersuing, but we're going to watch wait, hold a minute. Okay, yeah. So I want to make sure that I'm showing the right thing. So it's the same intro, but it goes into him countersuing.
4 months after a jury sided with Afroman in a high-profile defamation trial, the music artist says the fight isn't over. He's now suing former Adams County Deputy Brian Newland, the same officer who helped lead the 2022 raid on his home.
I'm suing for the attorney fees I had to pay. All of this cost me money. And I shouldn't have to pay out a whole bunch of money because you rated me wrong in the first place.
The raid gained national attention after Afroman used surveillance video from inside his home in music videos and online content. Officers then sued him for invasion of privacy, but a jury rejected those claims. For Afroman, the damage went far beyond the headlines.
Those allegations, it made some of my customers postpone and cancel events. So by them yelling out false information, they scared away some of my clientele, and I need to be compensated for the clientele they scared away.
During our exclusive interview, Afroman framed the case as the turning point for a bigger conversation.
You said at that time, right after I interviewed you, right after you won, the verdict came down from the jury, actually about how did that win feel? You said America won. What did you mean by that?
By using my freedom of speech, we the people check the government that was in the wrong this particular time. America has to deal with the police. So how many people have gotten robbed by police officers. How much injustice has gone on, you know, and they don't got the platform to talk about it.
He also claims money was taken during the raid, and because Deputy Newland was a key player, that's why he's named in the suit directly.
It was his idea to raid my house. He handled the money, so he took it. He kicked down the door. This whole thing was motivated, inspired, and carried out by Brian Newland.
And despite years of court battles, viral videos, and headlines that stretched far beyond Adams County, Afroman says he's not leaving.
Would you even still call Adams County home?
If you beat up all the bullies at your school, would you leave?
No.
No, man. What you gonna do, go to another school and get into it with some more bullies?
Calling the last 4 years a blessing in disguise.
The lowest low brings the highest high. I was rapping and singing, but it was just more interesting after the police raided my house and people really started paying attention.
For WCPO 9 News, I'm Jay Shakur.
All right, I've got one more clip. I'm not even sure what this is. I think this is just a news clip. And then I'm going to read the document of him countersuing. Let me see, what is this?
I'm just happy.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and read his. Let's see here. All right, so he is touring. He is touring. He is currently playing. Let's see, today's the 3rd. He's playing in Jonesboro, Arkansas, at Brick House Bar and Grill, and then tomorrow he's playing the Wild Hare in Texarkana, Arkansas. Then he's going down to Texas. He's going to be in Austin, Tyler, Fort Worth, Houston. Then he's going back up to Oklahoma. It's going to be in Kansas, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Upper Sandusky, Ohio. It's going to be Raleigh, North Carolina, Maryland, Connecticut, back to Kentucky, Westchester Township in Ohio, Chicago, Illinois. He's playing Riot Fest in September. He's going to be in Paw Paw, Michigan, October 2nd. He's got a lot of shows. Got a lot of shows. All right, here let me pull this up and we can take a peek at it together. All right, let's see here. All right, let me pull this up here. All right. Comes now, Plaintiff Joseph E. Foreman, by and through counsel, and for the complaint versus Brian K. Newland, defendant, plaintiff says as follows. Joseph E. Foreman is a resident of Adams County, Ohio. Brian K. Newland is a resident of Adams County, Ohio. This court has subject matter jurisdiction. Where have we heard that before? Subject matter jurisdiction over this action pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, as this is a civil action for damages arising from tortious conduct. This court has personal jurisdiction over defendant because defendant resides in Ohio and conducted activity within the state that gave rise to the claims for relief. Venue is proper in Adams County, Ohio, pursuant to Ohio civil rule because defendant resides in this county, and the claim for relief arose in this county. So, on or about March 31st, 2023, defendant filed a lawsuit against plaintiff in Adams County Court of Common Pleas bearing case number. This lawsuit filed by defendant against plaintiff alleged unauthorized use of individual persona, invasion of privacy by misappropriation, invasion of privacy, false light publicity, invasion of privacy, unreasonable publicity given to private lives, and later added defamation. So, defendant's lawsuit against plaintiff was commenced and prosecuted for improper purposes, including to harass and maliciously injure plaintiff. The claims asserted by defendant against plaintiff in the prior lawsuit were not warranted under existing law and could not be supported by a good faith argument for the extension, modification, or reversal of existing law. The allegations and factual contentions made by defendant in the prior lawsuit had no evidentiary support. Defendant knew or should have known that the claims asserted against plaintiff lacked legal merit and factual base. Defendant knew or should have known that the lawsuit would cause plaintiff to incur substantial costs, expenses, and emotional distress. Now, here's the point. They never, in the civil lawsuit that we just watched, they never proved, meaning the plaintiffs, all the law enforcement, they never proved that they lost money, they lost their jobs. That's important. That's really important. He's saying, meaning Joseph here, Afroman, he's saying that he did lose money. He did lose. He was being dropped from his tour. People weren't hiring him. He is directly losing money, whereas not a single law enforcement officer lost their job because of this. So I think that's really important to understand. As a result and proximate result of defendant's frivolous lawsuit, plaintiff was forced to defend against the baseless claims. Plaintiff incurred attorney's fees and costs in excess of $25,000 in defending against defendant's frivolous lawsuit. So there you go. He had to spend $25,000 to hire Mr. Osborne there. 15, plaintiff suffered emotional distress, anxiety, and reputational harm as a result of defendant's frivolous lawsuit. Now, that's what they claimed on Afroman, saying that they had distress, they had anxiety, reputational harm. So he's kind of claiming the same thing here. 16, plaintiff lost time from work and suffered economic damages in an amount of excess of $25,000 as a result of the need to respond to and defend against defendant's frivolous lawsuit. 17, they like 17 so much we see it twice. On or about March 18th of 2026, the prior lawsuit was resolved in the plaintiff's favor on all counts. That's what we just watched. It was March 18th. 18, defendant's conduct in filing and prosecuting the frivolous lawsuit was willful, wanton, and malicious. So, count 1, malicious prosecution. Plaintiff alleges and incorporates by reference paragraphs 1 through 18, which we just obviously read. Defendant initiated and continued civil proceedings against plaintiff by filing and prosecuting the lawsuit described above. So Mr. Newland there initiated and continued civil proceedings by filing and prosecuting the lawsuit. Okay, so that was the lawsuit. That's why it went to civil court there. The proceedings were terminated and plaintiffs after a 3-day jury trial, which we just watched. The ego takes the stand. Defendant lacked probable cause to institute or continue the prior proceedings against plaintiff. 23, defendant acted with malice or with a primary purpose other than that of securing the proper adjudication of the claim against which the proceedings were based. 24, defendant's malicious prosecution caused plaintiff to suffer damages, including attorney fees. That's valid. Costs. He had to pay for gas, right? He lives in the area, so he doesn't have to pay for hotels or anything, or maybe he did. Lost wages, that's what he talked about on that. That's specific. Again, the law enforcement officers, they never lost their jobs. They didn't lose their jobs. He lost paying gigs. Emotional distress, okay, understood. And reputational harm. Okay, that's what they were saying that he caused them. So 25, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's malicious prosecution, plaintiff has been damaged in an amount to be determined at trial, but in no event less than $25,000. Count 2, abusive process. 26, plaintiff re-alleges and incorporates by reference paragraphs 1 through 25. That's 26. 27, defendant made use of legal process, to wit, the filing and prosecution of a civil lawsuit against plaintiff. 28, defendant employed the legal process for an ulterior or improper purpose, including to harass, intimidate, and injure plaintiff. So he's claiming, Afroman's claiming that they did this to harass him and to intimidate him. Defendant's use of process was not proper in the regular conduct of the proceedings. Defendant acted with malice and with knowledge that the process was being used for an improper purpose. That's going to be hard to prove. How can you prove that they knew that they were doing this for improper purpose? But 31, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's abusive process, plaintiff has suffered damages, including attorney fees, costs, lost wages, emotional distress, and reputational harm. 32, plaintiff has been damaged in an amount to be determined at trial, but in no event less than $25,000. All right, count 3, intentional infliction of emotional distress. 33, plaintiff realleges and incorporates by reference paragraphs 1 through 32. 34, defendant's conduct in filing and prosecuting a frivolous lawsuit against plaintiff was extreme and outrageous. It's going to be hard to prove. 35, defendant intended to cause plaintiff emotional distress or recklessly disregarded the near certainty that such distress would result from defendant's conduct. That's going to be difficult to prove. Defendant's conduct did in fact cause plaintiff to suffer serious emotional distress. I hear what he's saying. I mean, he's got to put this, on the record and in motions, but he's just going to get up on the stand or, and say, oh yes, I was emotionally distraught. That's hard to prove. What's easier to prove is he had paying gigs that said, we're not going to pay you anymore. And they dropped him. That I think he can prove pretty easily. 38, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's intentional infliction or emotional distress, plaintiff has been damaged in an amount to be determined at trial, but in no event less than $25,000. Count 4, tortious interference with contract. Okay, I think maybe this is okay. Here's where this is where I think he's gonna win this one. Plaintiff realleges and incorporates by reference paragraphs 1 through 39. 40, at all times relevant to this count, a valid and enforceable contract existed between plaintiff and various music venues. I think this is where it's solid. It's like provable, whereas the other ones are like, oh, I was emotionally, just like he proved in the case that he won. You can't say, oh, I was emotionally emotionally damaged or whatever without actually proving it. How were you emotionally damaged? This, however, is solid, factual. He had contracts with music venues. 42, defendant intentionally procured the breach of the contract between plaintiff and various music venues by filing and prosecuting the frivolous lawsuit against plaintiff. Defendant acted with the purpose or desire to interfere with the performance of the contract or knew that interference was certain or substantially certain to occur as a result of defendant's actions. 44, defendant's interference with plaintiff's contracts was intentional and improper. Defendant's interference with plaintiff's contract lacked justification. 46, in determining whether defendant acted improperly, the following factors demonstrate the improper nature of defendant's conduct. 47, the nature of defendant's conduct was malicious and designed to harm plaintiff's business relationships. 48, defendant's motive was to injure plaintiff rather than to advance any legitimate interest. That's going to be hard to prove. 49, the interests interfered, which included plaintiff's contractual and economic relationships. I think he'll be able to prove that. 50, defendant sought to advance no legitimate interest through the interference. 51, the social interest in protecting the freedom of action and the contractual interest of plaintiff outweigh any claim interest of plaintiff outweigh any claim interest of defendant. 52, defendant's conduct was proximately connected to the interference of the contract. 53, the relationship between plaintiff and various music venues was a legitimate business relationship deserving of protection. I agree with that. He had playing gigs, and they pulled out. 54, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's intentional procurement of the contract's breach, various music venues failed to perform its obligation under the contract. That's pretty important. They literally took money out of his pocket. They took food off of his table. 55, as a direct and proximate result of defendant's tortious interference with contract, plaintiff has suffered pecuniary loss and damages. He can prove that. That's very provable. You see what I'm saying? It's hard to prove emotional distress unless you went to a psychiatrist, psychologist, you checked yourself into a hospital. I mean, it's hard to prove that I was under emotional distress. But I can easily say I had a contract with, the Brick House Bar and Grill August 3rd, but now I don't anymore because they canceled my contract because of this lawsuit. All right. So 56, plaintiff's damages include loss of the benefits that would have been realized from the performance of the contract, loss of business opportunities, loss of revenue, and other economic damages in an amount to be determined at trial. Plaintiff has been damaged in an amount to be determined at trial, but in no event less than $25,000. Wherefore, plaintiff demands to wit: A, compensatory damages in an amount to be determined at trial, including but not limited to. All right, here we go. Here's where the rubber hits the road here. Attorney's fees and costs incurred in defending the prior frivolous lawsuit, lost wages and economic damages, damages for emotional distress, anxiety, humiliation, and reputational harm. See, now I think if I was the defendant, in this case, Mr. Newland there, I'd be like, your reputation wasn't harmed, you actually increased. I can prove that you actually, you increased subscribers, you increased watch. Your video before this happened was at 2 million, and now after it's happened, it's at 4 million. So that I think you can debate pretty easily. The reputational harm, I think if anything, it's increased his reputation. All right, D, damages for loss of contractual benefits and business opportunities. That 100% agree. E, damages for loss of revenue resulting from the breach of contract. Agree with that. F, all other damages proven at trial. And then punitive damages in an amount sufficient to punish defendant and deter similar conduct in the future. Prejudgment interest as provided by law. Post-judgment interest as provided by law. Cost of suit as provided by law, such other and further relief as the court deems just and proper. David S. Osborne, he's in West Union. Jury, he wants a jury. Plaintiff Joseph Foreman demands a jury trial in relation to all claims included in this case. All right, to the clerk, please cause summons, cause of complaint, copy of attachments. Please instruct the sheriff to personally serve the summons upon the defendant. So, I don't know. What do you guys think of that? Hey, JPC, you just watching the news story about the verdict? What do you guys think? I mean, do you think he's got a shot? So he's asking for another jury trial. What do you guys think? Do you think? I hope he gets another judge. Well, not that it really matters, but it would be if it's Judge Hain again. It'd be interesting. I think that's how he pronounces his last name. What do you guys think? Debbie, I think he can prove emotional because he lost money in venues that would give me emotional anxiety if I lost work. That's true. Good point there, Debbie. Camilla, if only they had apologized to Afroman. He just wanted an apology. Lossie Gardner, I think it should happen. JPC saying hello. Well, I would, if I was a jury, I would find in favor. I'm sure he can prove the lost venue, the lost gigs. I'm sure he can prove that, and I'd be like, yeah, you lost. If they say we are canceling your show because you're in a lawsuit, then that's a direct correlation. He is directly being affected by this lawsuit, and if he can prove that, if he has those receipts, then by all means, I would vote absolutely give him those lost wages. He deserves those. He deserves those lost wages. Now everything else, maybe not, but I would say if you truly lost, if those venues said we're not going to, we're canceling your show because you are in the middle of a lawsuit, then I would say you should get that money back. Now, if those same venues said after the lawsuit, come on back and we'll play, then that might be a different story. But horse welfare, I think Afroman has a legitimate claim. Jenny G says, I think he has a better chance than these plaintiffs had. I agree with that. Marjorie says, yeah, the way the judge acted, he needs a jury. Let's see, sorry. Shirley says, better chance to win now. Debbie, they also damaged his home. Yeah, I don't think I didn't see anything in there about his home. I think this is more about him losing money from playing. But yes, they broke his gate and they smashed down his door. And then you saw how neat he kept his house. They ransacked his house. Jenny, I really hope a different judge presides over this. Yeah, Judge Hain is the same. He's with Billy Wagner, the Pike County situation between those two families. That's the same judge that's is residing over Billy Wagner. Aussie, it is the principle of the matter. They should not have done what and how they did it. I agree. Camilla, Disney canceled Johnny Depp because of Amber Heard. Afroman has a chance. I agree with that. That is absolutely true. So, all right. I think that's about it, you guys. We are going to wrap it up here. So I just want to say big shout out to everybody for watching us in our latest Ego Takes the Stand episode 23, in our ongoing series of defendants taking the stand. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you spending your day. And thank you to our mods. Thank you to Aaron. So with Sarah Grace Patrick off the table until next year, I found something for us to watch at least tomorrow, possibly into Wednesday, until a new trial comes up. And then next week, Courtney Clenny has her hearing on Monday. And yeah, we're gonna have to find a new trial to watch until Mario Fernandez Saldana kicks in. So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching with us. There's a little Super Ball over there, being sweet little Super Ball. Sweet little Super Ball. Yeah. Oh, hi. Oh, I got Polly over here. Yeah, good girl. Yeah, it's a good girl. You got little Polly there. Yeah. So that is it for today. Really appreciate you guys again watching with us. Oh my God, cruise by Super Ball. Super Ball cruise by. We will see you guys tomorrow. We're going to have something for you guys to watch tomorrow. Not sure when I'm gonna start yet. Probably 9, maybe 9 or 9:30, depending on how late. Mario. Yes. What did I say? Yeah, the Mario hearing. Oh, there's a Mario hearing tomorrow. So we have a Mario. We have a Mario hearing tomorrow at 9:30. Okay. All right. So we have a Mario hearing tomorrow. So we'll do that first, and then we have this. I found this other trial. I think you guys will be interested in this. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to tease it because I have to do some more research. But I think you guys will appreciate it. We were talking about it when it happened, so we're gonna do that watch. But yeah, Mario's got a hearing tomorrow at 9:30. So hopefully it'll be streamed, and we're not sure how long it is going to be. So anyway. All right, William, have a good one. Jennifer, have a good one. Horse Welfare, Aussie, Debbie, thank you guys all for joining us. Jenny G, have a great night. Good vibes. Horse Welfare, everybody take care. Barry and Brat, hope you guys all have a fantastic night. And Aussie, I know it's what time is it for you? Let's see. Like, let's see, 3 in the morning. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning for you. I don't know how you do it, but thank you, Aussie, for being a fantastic mod. All right, see you guys tomorrow, and take care of yourselves, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.